I'm Teresa. Thank you so much for joining me this evening. Welcome to the live stream and happy Tuesday to you. If you are hearing my voice, it is Tuesday, October the 28th, I think. Can't remember, but close enough. We're going to call it that anyway. I'm glad to have you. I'm going to give a few moments for some folks to come in here and see what we got going on. Yeah, it is the 28th. I'm awesome. And this was my grandmother's born day. I mean, she transitioned years ago, but her birthday was October 28th of 1888. So yeah, kind of remembering grandma a little bit today. And who we got? Welcome in, Brooklyn. How are you? Welcome, welcome. And happy Tuesday to you. Hopefully, we're going to have a good session tonight. I don't know what we're going to get into. I never know what we're going to get into, but it goes where it's supposed to go. So I don't even worry about that no more. How are you doing today, dear? Ooh. Hey, Paul. How are you, brother? Brother from another mother. How you doing today? I was just I thank you. Okay, yeah, because I was gonna tell Paul I realized today was the 28th of October, and it was my grandmother's born day. I mean, she like I said, she transitioned like in 1986, but her birthday was 10/28 of 1888, and then my mother was born in 2/28 of 28. So I thought that was kind of interesting. They were both on the 28th of a month, but yeah. And it's so weird because I did kind of sort of hear from her today. I'm trying to think. It was something that I got up this morning and I was in the bathroom running a little water or whatever. And I was thinking about getting up. And then I was thinking about going and laying down again. And a phrase that my grandmother used to say that used to make us all laugh came in. Because she would always say, I'm going to go get me a little nap of sleep. And I'm like, what else are you gonna get a nap of other than sleep? But that was just a little quirky thing that she used to say. And I'm like, you taking naps all day long. But what she did, she liked to cat nap a lot. But that was probably why she still looked. I mean, my grandmother was 80 when I was born, and she was a little Spitfire dynamo. She really didn't go down, like majorly down, until she got about 95, and she became less ambulatory and things like that. And what actually took her out was like pneumonia just hit her, and it was a very fast decline. But yeah, when I did that phrase, a nap of sleep, I had literally not heard or even thought about that in the context of my grandmother since childhood. And it came through my mind today. So I should have paid attention to the date on the calendar then to realize she was kind of giving me a little birthday check in. But yep, happy birthday, Grandma. Yep. So y'all, where we going tonight in the conversation? What are we going to talk about? Yeah, 1888. Look, I came from a very old family. That's why I said people don't even. My mother had me at 40. Her mother had her at 40. That was one of the reasons why I had my tubes tied at 32 to make sure I ended that family tradition. Nip that thing right there in the bud. But yeah, so it was kind of cool. Hey, Hakui, what's my opinion on it? I don't have one because I went and looked it up. It's just some goofy thing that kids do. There's a whole lot of goofy things that make their way into slang or whatever. So yeah, I have no real opinion on that. But if that's what makes them feel good, go right ahead. Everybody be trying to figure out what it is and what it means and all the rest of that stuff. I'm more interested, truthfully, in the meanings that people are starting to place on the group seven thing. Because truthfully, I understand how it started, but there may be a little something, something to that. when we tap into the unified field, things tap in for a reason. People start getting information and ideas simultaneously for a reason. Oh, thank you so much, Paul. I appreciate it. Yeah, normally I'd be having my hair covered, and I don't know. I just decided to give the trolls something else to talk about today. So, you know, you said your grandfather used to nap standing in the field. Honestly, Paul, when I was a correctional officer, I learned how to nap standing up on some of them late nights. I worked in near my hometown, um, and I was a security guard at a maximum security male prison, but I was a tower officer because that's where they let the tower officers go. And they built that prison on reclaimed swampland, so we had quite a lot of nights where visibility was quite low due to fog, and we'd have to get out there and patrol between the towers carrying a shotgun. And I learned how to make an A-frame and sleep standing up. Sad to say, but it happens. Um, hey, R.A. Rubel official. Hey, Blake the Batman. Give you a reason to sub. Take just a few moments, if you will, and go to my regular videos, and you can look at any of the last few uploads, and you'll find plenty of reason to sub. I mean, if you want to be entertained with, crazy dancing and a lot of silliness and flashing boobs and all that, then this ain't your channel. But if you want to learn about spirituality, the Anunnaki presence on the planet, learning to read and interpret the ancient text and the scriptures in a different way, then, there we go. But give me a reason to sub. I don't know what to tell you, bro, because I don't know. Different people subscribe for different reasons, but I'm not going to try to be a dancing monkey for you or something. Hey, Jax Play, Minecraft, how are you? Welcome, welcome. I do hope you subscribe because the message that I've been given from Yeshua to share with humanity is, in my opinion, important information. It's not entirely new, but I do have a slightly different take. The way Spirit has helped me connect the dots over the past few years of a lot of the information that is out there now, I think it's a little bit different take, but I think it's important. Awesome. Thank you so much, Jax Play. Oh, and I didn't even have to dance for you for that one. Blake said he gonna make me work for it, but I get out here. I think I call myself working for it every time I come on live. Hey, Penny Props, welcome, welcome. Mr. Silas YT, I would never do that. And I'm gonna tell you a few reasons why. People that play around with what they don't understand are playing a very dangerous game. And a lot of the people that misuse and abuse and manipulate spirituality or start playing around in the dark spirituality. Hey, Environment, welcome in. What they don't realize is that when you start flinging curses on people, first off, you better really know what you're doing, because if those people are anointed or protected or in any way spiritually awakened and enlightened, when you start flinging curses, if those curses don't land, then guess what? They come right back to you, and usually threefold. So it's not wise to go around trying to curse people, but why would you even want to? You know? Yep, good morning to you, Environment. Yep, yep. With that whole cursing thing, people don't understand. There's going to come a time, the religious people talk about Judgment Day, and I don't want to scare anybody. I don't feel like it. Judgment Day, as religion has given it to us, that's a fear mongering tactic, and I don't think Judgment Day is that. But there is an indication in the sacred text that those who are meek and nonviolent, who are loving and cooperative, will be the ones who inherit new earth. So if you decide to just be as nasty as you know how to be just because you can, and go around doing things like trolling people for no reason and flinging curses on people for no reason and roaming the streets, being a real problem child for no reasons, all that Karen and Chad stuff we see out here, There's a lot of things you have the right to do, but later on, karmically, energetically, spiritually, it is going to double back around and bite you in the ass. And spell work is one of those things. So, truthfully, if you are aware spiritually, you would never throw curses to anyone. Hey, Zion, how are you? To be spiritually powerful, do the work. Do the work. That's all. Shamanic, don't come in here with no knowledge, no craziness. I teach knowledge every night. If you be quiet and stop trolling and listen. You know what? I want to read something to y'all because I did. It was so interesting. The more I deal with trolls, the more fascinated I kind of sort of am. And trust me, the trolls don't need to be flattered by that because it's really not. I'm just trying to figure out how somebody could be so brain dead as to not generally have nothing better to do with their life than to decide to be a troll. But when you Google troll, the term troll, some interesting information came up for me that I just really want to take a minute to talk about because it talked about like the psychology behind it and stuff like that. And Zion, just stick around because we are going to get to the spiritually powerful stuff. It's not an instant thing. There's nobody that can wave a wand over you and just suddenly make you spiritually powerful. It's a daily choosing to be more spiritually focused than you have been. Some people have an automatic overnight epiphany and boom, all of a sudden they're writing books and doing talk shows and all. Most people's spiritual awakening isn't like that. Spiritual awakening can be a process of anywhere from a few months to 10, 15 years, depending on who you are, the belief systems that you got to break, the karmic lessons that you got to learn and process and heal from, and the spiritual path that you're led down as far as your guides or your intuition or what feels good to you. So truthfully, it's like I said, just every day, just little course corrections daily, daily, daily. And eventually you'll realize that you genuinely are tapping into the unified field. You genuinely are taking direction from something bigger than you that's taking you in a certain direction, leading you to certain information, and your dots will begin to connect. So, this is a wonderful place to be. This is not a denominational platform. This isn't any of that. I put the information out. In fact, I'm very much, if you listen to me long enough, you'll find out I don't support any of the Abrahamic religions at all. Quite the opposite. They get mad at me because they tell me, oh, you should be respectful. Why should I be respectful of something that don't respect us? That part. But like I say, hopefully you'll have some fun here. Hey, Maurice Porter, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing, brother? I ain't seen you in a minute. Now, again, this is I'm just going. I went on front page Google, so we're dealing with like the AI overview kind of stuff, but it gave some very interesting insights. Of course, the base meaning, yeah, that too. Paul is definitely said meditation is absolutely key. I guess I should have went there first. Meditation and breath work because years ago, now this is something I did hear from a preacher years ago and it was beneficial. But they say prayer is when you talk to God, meditation is when God talks to you. And I mean, truthfully, you may not have a life changing epiphany every time you meditate, but if you consistently learn to meditate, all kinds of different ideas, like I say, the ideas will flow, the epiphanies will come, all of that. Hey, Michael Stevens. Thank you, brother. Appreciate you. To what I look like $1,000,000. I was like, hey, have you ever seen $1,000,000? There's a joke that went that way years ago. The guy said, "Oh, you look like $1,000,000," and he was like, "What do you mean? You ain't never seen $1,000,000?" He said, "That's what I'm talking about. You look like something I ain't never seen before." Hey, Chidinma, how are you? Welcome in. Welcome in. You say you love the white strip. I have been gray to some small degree since I was 11 years old, and I've had this streak since I was about 23 or 24. I just most of the time when I don't wear my hair up, like if I was just brushing it back in a ponytail, you can kind of sort of see it. But just like the gap in my teeth, all the women in my family had this as well. So I used to color it for a while, but now I done got older. Until I go truly silver, like all the way, I'll keep it. But anyway, back to this definition of the troll thing. It says a person who makes a deliberately offensive or provocative online post. And then when it was talking about, wait a second. Oh man, I was trying to, mm, it was talking about the psychology of it, and I done messed around and went to, it didn't give me everything I wanted, but it was talking about the psychological reasons why people might choose to troll. And truthfully, when you really look into the psychology of trolling, it's kind of sad for real, because they're catering to feelings of deficiency, less than, or over entitledness, a sense of over entitlement, narcissistic stuff, sadistic type stuff. None of it's good for whatever the reason, no matter how you slice it psychologically. It was basically bringing out the fact that people who make a conscious decision to repeatedly show up and just be a problem in random people's lives just because they can, they are not mentally healthy. They're just really not. You said that happened to Della Reese when her mom passed? Oh, wow. Yeah. I started plucking it. Like I said, when I was about 10 or 11, I started noticing there was just a little few, like two or three. And I started plucking them. And they said, and then I stopped because they claimed if you kept plucking them, more would come in besides. So I left them alone. But then by the time I was 23, 24, 25, it was laid in. And then I started noticing all of the women in my family kind of sort of did that. It's interesting. We get a gray streak early, but overall, most of our hair keeps its color for quite a while longer than you would expect people to. But even after we go completely white, or 60 or 70% white, if we live long enough, my grandmother, by the time she passed at 97, her hair had gone, because her hair wasn't like a bright silver gray like this. Hers was more of a kind of a gunmetal gray that she went. But she went completely gray, like 80. By age 80, she was completely silver, about 90% silver, 95. And then by the time she passed at 97, her hair was turning back black again. She was basically, about the front third of her hair was still about 50% salt and pepper, but the back half of her hair was almost completely black again. And my mother passed at 82, and she was, the same thing was happening to her. She had stopped coloring her hair years ago, but it had reverted back to majority black. Let me see. A trick for all: if you can't clear your mind, think to the back of your mind. It frees you to meditate with clear mind. Yeah. Something else. One of the things that I was telling somebody before, when I first started meditating, I don't do it now, but when I was trying to clear my mind, now, as much as I talk about religion, one of the first things that I used to do to clear my mind mentally, I would put myself on a pew in a church, an empty church, like obviously not service going on, but people just walk into a church to sit down and pray, like the mamas and the papas talked about. In my mind's eye, I would walk into a church, sit down on the pew, fold my hands in my lap, and wait. Wait for what? Waiting for spirit to speak to me. And usually I would start. It was like a sensation, or feeling the conversation, feel like it would just kind of come in from behind me somewhere. After that, when I stepped away from the church thing, I would put myself, for a while, I put myself in the train station in the Matrix when Neo went and met Sunrise, and the program, her father, the programmer who created the Sunrise, and then he was kind of stuck in that train station, and everything was white on white on white. I would put myself in a room that was, like I said, in a white room, inside of a white bubble, wearing white clothes. I'd take a few moments to decide what my outfit looked like. Um, and then a softer white light inside of the bubble. And eventually, like I said, because the idea is you're never going to stop your thoughts completely, but you want to quiet enough of your chatter so that when mind chatter comes in that is completely off topic from what you were thinking about, you kind of understand that that spirit feeding you something. You say you're late for tea. Oh, you're never late for tea, honey. We got a cup for you. Come on in. Come on in. We haven't gotten anywhere majorly yet. Thoughts of compassion can bring you into presence. Yeah. Well, I think if you, and you'll get to a point where you don't have to place yourself anywhere to meditate. But I was just saying for people who are just starting to get into consistent meditation to quiet their mind, their own personal mind chatter, just the random stuff, it helps to put, it could be a field of flowers by the beach, whatever scene you can kind of place in your mind to put you into some place that's quiet where you're not really paying attention to outside noise. And then one of the things that I've also learned to do over time, now this is not 101 meditation, but over time I deliberately started training myself to meditate in noisy places. Go outside where I know I'm going to hear the traffic and the kids running over there and the car coming around the corner and the whatever, the construction workers or the lawnmower or the and see if I could still isolate myself down to be able to consistently, somewhat at least, meditate in that, in a noisy space. And when you get to where you can do that, you kind of sort of got it lit. You can take your quick zone out pretty much anywhere. Uh, What do you mean? What happened to it? I chose not to put it on. See, that's what I tell y'all. The trolls. This is one of the main ones that has something to say about me wearing a head wrap, and then when I don't wear it, they still got something to say. So, as I chose not to wear one today. Okay, Johnny Blade, that part. Hey, Brooklyn Miss. Oh, I'm sorry, you did come in. You were the first one in here. What am I saying? Your friend Param likes to talk about the chattering monkey inside our heads. Yeah, because that's the thing that especially people that have like ADD or ADHD or on the spectrum somewhere, so they've been convinced or been told, usually by psychologists, psychiatrists, their parents, school, whatever, that they cannot focus on things. So they think they cannot meditate. Yeah, you can. Because people that teach meditation, excuse me, often they get so harped on quieting the mind, they don't bother to explain to people that quieting the mind is not 100% quiet. Your mind is never going to be 100% quiet. It's still recording even when you sleep. So you're not even, the goal is not 100% quiet. A goal is just to learn to observe the thoughts as they pass by without getting sidetracked down too many random rabbit holes, unless or until the mind movies show up. Now, when you get quiet enough that you start seeing mind movies, that's where you want to be. That's the sweet spot, because spirit will link up thoughts in your mind, several different things. It might be something you thought about this over here and something you thought about this over here and something over there, and they will link those things together in such a way that you may have never thought they could be related, but spirit will show you how they can. And that's when you cooking with grease, as they say. At that point, when the mind movies kick in, that's what, and you'll start to understand concepts. Like I was mentioning on a previous live stream, when I first started meditating, I didn't know it at the time because I wasn't enough into religion to understand it, but I was being shown cosmic concepts from basic Gnostic teachings. Hey, Teresa Jones, how are you from Tennessee? And Jilly, welcome to you as well. Awesome, awesome. Welcome, welcome. But yeah, that, I think anybody who wants to improve or grow, let me put it, I don't want to say improve, whoever want, and we're in a period of awakening, massive awakening. We're in a period, a lot of folks that have were awakened previously are finding themselves in a cycle of what we call death, rebirth, and ascension. And it's, like I said, not a literal death, but a spiritual, just kind of a leaving off of the old way, where slowly but surely you'll look up one day and you realize you don't eat the same way you used to. You're not listening to the same kind of music you used to. Most of the kind of people that you hung around, you're not quite hanging around with that crowd anymore. It's sometimes it happens quickly, but sometimes it happens so subtly. You're like, wait a minute, I ain't had a cheeseburger in like 6 months. What happened? I mean, sometimes it's a conscious, mindful thing, but sometimes we just get readjusted and redirected kind of organically, and I think that's a beautiful thing too, because quiet as it's kept, people don't understand we are in the process of migrating to 4D and 5D. That we've had massive timeline shifts in the past several years. And now, if you look, anybody that don't think that we are having timeline shifts, think about life before 2020, and then think about what we woke up to in 2020. And even mainstream television was announcing that we're experiencing paradigm shifts. When mainstream TV started talking about paradigm shifts and Mandela effects, it's time to take your head out the sand and understand something really popping off over here. I'm just saying. So it's happening, and the best way to kind of tune in and to be to not be left behind, if you will, in that sort of thing, is to lean into it. Stop fighting it. Stop trying to deny it. You ain't got to explain it to your friends, because the ones that aren't going to awaken in the sin will still call you crazy. They'll still laugh and hate on you and troll on you if you try to talk about it. You ain't got to announce it to nobody if you don't need. If you're still in an environment where they're going to have call a little cause that you're discussing your spirituality is going to cause a problem. Tune in to places like this. There are online communities. I promise you, you're not alone. Millions of people are awakening right now. The stuff that people used to laugh and call conspiracy theory, they realize it ain't theory. They're not laughing no more. Some people still are, because they're still asleep. They don't want to wake up. But nah. Yeah, you've been feeling the shift for several years. Absolutely. I'm telling you, when I decided to start meditating in the fall of 2016, I basically just wanted to learn how to manifest stuff. And again, my guys told me later, kind of laughingly, be careful what you ask for, because you just might get it. My want to know stuff self said, I want to learn how to manifest from nothing. That's real alchemy, like for real. But here's the thing, sometimes if you ask to learn to manifest from nothing, guess what? The universe hears, I want to be in a point where I have nothing. And that's exactly what happened. My tower moment hit, and I got stripped down like a car in the city, down to the frame. So I could learn how to manifest from nothing. When you don't have nothing, there you go. There's your beginning point. Now you can learn how to manifest from nothing. Lovely Miss Jones. Okay, I'll include you later. I don't do a whole lot of open praying on this channel because I do have a lot of trolls in place, and for often, uh, yeah, you do need to learn. Girl face, that's true. You can pray for yourself. Be Pay attention to who and what you're praying to, lovely Miss Jones. Okay, and I'm saying that with all respect. I think you're pretty new to the channel. I don't remember seeing you before. But ask Yeshua and Archangel Michael to redirect your steps, because the vast majority of people on this planet are praying to a being that will never answer their prayers and don't care nothing about them, to be honest with you. It's a real random thing. When you pray to the wrong entity, your prayer is a real hit or miss, that you may get something, a little something, something might happen, but probably not. But it's the time is coming where if you actually ask your guides and figure out the real nature of Yahweh and the nature of his brother Enki, and then make a choice for yourself. But even at that, you don't really have to pray to them. You can declare things for yourself. Yeah, you want to thank them and what your spirit team and your ancestors and all that good stuff, but you really, really, as a sovereign being, you are a piece of God. So you don't have to beg and bow and scrape. That's some Yahweh mess. You say you can witness manifest it once someone speaks. Most often they don't see it inside, then it happens. It's way easier to manifest for other people, for real, than it is for yourself. Hi, Waylon Jones. Welcome in. Welcome in. If you continue to spam, though, I will have to, yeah, because we're not going to just keep scrolling the same comment over and over and over. Don't do that, brother, please. Okay? And I want to be an inspiration to everybody. I'm not an inspiration to the trans community. I don't have nothing against the trans community, but we're not doing that here, okay? If you insist on doing it, you will be removed because there's a place for that and it ain't here. All right? All right. Exactly, Enviromad. They are collecting things because they feel like they got to have the car and the house and the this and the that and the all. I got in a conversation with somebody, I can't even remember who it was, a couple weeks ago, and it was talking about like the things that we think we have, the shoes and the handbags and all the rest of that, because we've gotten so caught up in materialism that we've been convinced that we are supposed to spend $200 on a pair of shoes that quite literally cost $5 or $6 to make, maybe 10 by the time inflation is now. And I mean, at the time we were talking about like the Nikes and stuff, the Jordans. They sell at one time they were selling for $165, but now they got collector editions and people spend six, $800, $1,000, $1,200 on those shoes because Michael Jordan put that planned obsolescence thing to work. And that's all well and good, but do you know that those, and they talk about, oh, the knockoffs that showed up in the flea markets, the knockoffs and the real shoes is made in the same place. Those shoes are made overseas, and at the time that those shoes were $165, they actually cost $6 in material and labor to make. Same thing with an iPhone right now. Base model iPhone is $1,000 retail. It costs $10 to make that phone. And we get so caught up in the brand name BS that we allow people to do that because we don't want to show up nowhere with no raggedy janky phone. Well, truthfully, in the US, they do it so raggedy till we can't even really get real warranties to get foreign other foreign made phones like Huawei and other lesser expensive phones and things. But Apple do that planned obsolescent thing to an absolutely disgusting degree. But as a status symbol, there are people that will run out every single year. They got to have every brand new iPhone the moment it come out, and they ain't learn how to use 10% of the features that's on the phone they got. Ooh, sorry about that, y'all. Hang on a second. My thingamajig. Hey, Antoine, welcome, welcome. Exactly. And you know when I found out about the knockoffs and the name brands, I grew up in a very small town in North Florida, and it just so happened that we had a sewing factory in that town. And I remember a lot of the ladies that worked in that sewing factory were talking about. Now, this was way back yonder when, back when the like the board shorts, the swim trunk looking kind of shorts, board shorts were a popular thing in like the 80s and early part of the 90s. In that sewing factory for a while they were making board shorts as a real, like a consistent part of their run. And they would start out with one particular kind of fabric in the label and the whatever else, and they might make 10,000 pairs of those, slap a label on it, and those would go to Dollar General. They switch up the material, same people sewing, switch up the material, same exact pattern, same people sewing, make another 10,000 of them, stick a different label on them, Those might be going to JCPenney. Switch the line, put a different material on, same people sewing, same exact pattern, do another 10,000. Those might be going to Neiman Marcus. Come on, people. There's nothing you can do to a pair of jeans to actually make them be worth $200. Stop the nonsense. You know what I mean? Same thing with there's nothing you can do to a purse to make it be worth $2,000, much less 30 or 40,000. Regular people in the street walking, talking about getting a Birkin. There are women that are working regular jobs, still paying rent somewhere, still catching the bus or the train or making car notes and talking about they want a Birkin. Are you kidding me? If I had $500 million in the bank, I wouldn't buy a Birkin. To be honest, I really wouldn't. Because where would I take it to? And I used to like women like shiny things, and I used to think about like the types of rings that I want and all that for my wedding ring. I'm like, well, you know, regular jewelry, blah, blah, blah. But for the wedding ring, oh, it'd be all right to have a 15, 20, $30,000 ring. Not really. These are not actually Dollar Tree glasses though, Mike D. They are pretty inexpensive. I got them from Amazon, but I buy like a 5 pack or 6 pack, whatever it was, of readers off of Amazon. But I have bought glasses from Dollar Tree, except I stopped doing it only because the quality of the lenses in those glasses tend to be less and they damage your eyes after a while. They scratch very easily. The focus on them is off sometimes because, after all, if they're in Dollar Tree, they probably were made by a more expensive manufacturer, but something went wrong in the batch, and so they didn't quite hit the same quality standards that they would elsewhere. Hey, CC, welcome in. Oh, yeah. Girl facing, you're right. They are generic. For people that like Post cereals, Malta Meal is made by Post, or Post is made by Malta Meal, whatever the case. One, you're paying for the box. You're gonna go and spend $5 on a 12-ounce box of cereal with the plastic bag and this and that and all of that. With Malta Meal, for that same $5, you can get like a 30-ounce bag of cereal, but you don't have the fancy packaging. Same exact companies. I mean, products. Hey, King David, welcome in. Exactly. Michael Jordan ain't making them. He just turning around and they're putting limits on them on those shoes to make sure that they stay a hot commodity because they do a limited run and then they turn around 5 years later and do another run of it and then turn around another 5 years later and do but they all of them. I ain't gonna talk about the man's shoes, but in my opinion, I've never seen none of them that looked like they was worth all of that. But there are people that got to collect 30, 40, 50 pairs of Jordans, but they're still renting somewhere. And I'm like, you got $10,000 worth of sneakers in your house, but you're renting. And if the house go up in flames, your renter's insurance probably ain't even gonna cover that. But okay, because they're used products. They're only a collectible because somebody said, like that Labubu nonsense. You said that ain't the spirit moving; it's a Birkin snatch in progress. Yeah. No, I don't eat cereal anymore, but I'm just that was just the thing when she was talking about the different companies doing the same things. That was just the first example that came to my mind. Well, yeah, no, I'm definitely not gonna walk around barefoot though, Antoine. So I'm not saying people shouldn't wear any shoes, and I'm not saying you can't have some nice things, but it's just gotten so ridiculous that people need to understand how we're being manipulated by a bunch of greedy people. Why do we need designer clothes? All clothes are designed by somebody, but because Michael Kors or Hilfiger or Givenchy or whoever, you just making them people inordinately rich. And they're not making them, like she said, good point. They make the initial design, even the higher end, unless you go and have an haute couture piece specifically curated for yourself, that designer is never going to touch the fabric that you're making. Their understudies, their apprentices are making them based on their guidelines. That's one of the reasons Chanel and Gucci and places like that are still taking people's money, even though the main designers that actually created the brand been long gone. Yeah, we do still have some design houses that have the main designer still there, but a lot of those is just a brand name. Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton been gone probably off of this planet almost 100 years, and people still paying for that LV stuff. And if you understood the story behind Louis Vuitton, it truthfully wasn't even supposed to be an exclusive brand like that. He was a luggage maker. I forgot the story, but they made him a certain way just to be more durable and all that good stuff. But it wasn't nothing special about it that should have required the exorbitant rates that people are getting now. And I don't care what y'all say, ain't nobody ever, 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 ever gonna justify the cost of a Birkin. Ever. There's nothing you can do to that small of an amount of leather and brass to make it be worth $30,000 plus. And that's the base price of most of those Birkins is somewhere in the 25 to $30,000 range. Some of them are 60 and $70,000 for a purse that you gonna put what, a $10 lipstick and a pair of car keys in, right? And Anna, that's the part that really irritates me, Antoine. You said she got SNAP benefits in a Chanel bag. Either she budgeting like a prophet or hustling like a saint. Or well, I wouldn't say either one of them. She balling on a budget and hustling like a 304. I used to work as a waitress and we made decent money. I'm not bagging on being a waitress because most of the waitresses in the restaurant that I worked in made between 40 and $60,000 a year. So it wasn't bad money, but there was a girl in there that was a single parent and she was forever talking about this red bottom shoes and $1,000 weaves and this purse that was over here $600, $800, this, that, and the third constantly. And I'm like, what? Why? You're a waitress and you're a single parent. You spending your child's college fund right now. What's up with that? Yeah, it is. It's all junk, girl face. And you can look nice without doing all of that. And here's the thing, because the Birkin style, I've seen several similar styles. You actually, there are companies, there's a company in New York that'll make you a bag that, except for the slight changes they have to make in the hardware because of copywriting or whatever trademarking agreements, they make a leather bag that looks exactly like a Birkin. Of course, it's not going to have the signature dye lots or whatever. There'll probably be different colors, but the purse itself looks identical to a Birkin. $200. $200. Not 40,000, 200. You said, what? No, you can trade eggs and potatoes. Yeah. Now, look, most of us do not have the agricultural acumen to go back to a purely bartering society with 8 billion people on the planet. We're probably not going to go back to purely bartering, but I get what y'all are saying. We have to find our way back to a less greedy society, that people that don't look down their nose at that phrase, I am my brother's keeper. There, so we live in a society currently that thinks that saying I am my brother's keeper is a bad thing, and we're going to have to step away from that somewhat, because spiritually we should be our brother's keepers, not nosy, not our brother's rulers, not our brother's tormentors, not our brother's manipulators or take advantages of us. But if we actually live, I think it was Gandhi, and Gandhi wasn't even Christian at all. But he did say if people live by the words of the Sermon on the Mount, that the world would be a peaceful place. And one of the main ideas that came out of Yeshua's Sermon on the Mount was do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Not repaying evil for evil. No. We live in a world of do unto others before they can do unto you. Do unto others as they do unto you. Hurry up and get your clap back. It's a dog eat dog world. And those kinds of things, that's the reason why we live in the, but again, we live in a world that's governed by the Abrahamic religions, but they don't even follow what the book even say. The book got a lot of conflicting stuff in it. I get that part. But if they just, but that's because the book defies what Yeshua said. If they stop looking at the entire book and just listen to what Yeshua said, there would be peace on earth. Yeah, they do keep a broke mentality. You said we wouldn't need SNAP if we had that skill, Robin. Truthfully, we wouldn't need SNAP if jobs paid appropriately and they stopped doing this weird whatever they doing, because there's no reason why unemployment has to be as high as it is. There's no reason why people can't be paid appropriately for the work that they do. There's no reason why they've glutted the market and over distributed, like they they took money off of the gold standard and just glutted the market with dollars, and to the point that money don't even mean nothing, and then just keep jacking prices up higher and higher and higher. If things were priced appropriately and we were paid appropriately, being as how we are chattel of this corporation called the US of A, and they've been trading us like commodities off of our backs for centuries, ever since the company ever since the country has been a country, they've traded us on the world commodities market. Each and every one of y'all is a millionaire, a multimillionaire, and you don't even know because we can't claim it. But our Declaration of Independence and our Constitution are a mission statement and articles of incorporation, in case y'all didn't know. So there's a lot of things that we could do where we wouldn't need SNAP. But I'm just saying it would be very hard to go back to a completely currency less society with 8 billion people on the planet. That would be a bit difficult to do. But it is going something going to change. It has to. You're right. Thank you, Cruel Intentions. Appreciate you and welcome in. Welcome in. Yeah, people don't understand that when they're in school, when they had us read the Magna Carta, that was the beginning. That was the protest. And then they sat down with the Declaration of Independence. That's the mission statement. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union and all of that good stuff. Yeah. And then they sat down with the Constitution, and that was our first Articles of Incorporation signed off by the entire board of directors, right there. From the president, treasurer, secretary of state, all of the stuff that you got to have in a corporation is right there, including the provisions or amendments to it. And that's the problem. That's why people hate Trump so much, because he I know. We can't go too much further. I'm not going all the way there, Paul. I promise. I promise. Because everybody ain't ready for that conversation, but they better get ready because it's coming. It's coming. But that's one of the reasons people hate our current president so much. And again, without getting all the way into massive political agendas, back in the day when I was basically, I had an opportunity to respect his gangster a little bit, because I used to buy into a lot of the stuff that was said about him initially, and then I had to go back and look at some of the original footage and see the way they were pulling sound bites and rearranging things. Like when he was talking about they're putting out fake news, and I went back and did some of my homework and found out that they really were putting out fake news. That's what he was fussing about. But one of the things that it really occurred to me, ain't nobody said the man was perfect. I get that part, but I'm not finna sit down and have dinner with him either. I just want to know, can he do the job? And the thing that he's done is he's basically saying, stop the BS, stop trying to lie to these people and tell us we live in a democracy. This country has never been a democracy. It is a republic, but run it like the business that it is, and you can dig yourself out of trouble. Trim the fat and acknowledge the fact that this is a corporation and run it like a corporation. No, that's not true. That's not true, Environment. Well, again, don't come in here with that. If you believe that he's a salesman that never talks the truth, you have drank the Democratic Kool-Aid, my brother. You don't understand. And I get it because you're on the other side of the world. So what you hear is the ones that squawk the loudest, which is the Democratic left. But he's not nearly the demon that they try to paint him to be. They're mad because he's stopping the greed and lies and corruption. He's trying to put an end to the trafficking and abuse and a lot of the stuff that's going on now. Like I said, is he perfect? No, but he ain't no worse than none of the rest of them demons that's been in presidential offices ever since this country has come into place. And the reason I know the man is sincere because he ain't even taking a salary this go round for doing it. He refused to take a salary. He's just trying to make a difference because, like he said, he got to live here too, and his family got to live here too. And it pains him to watch what was happening with the Democrats literally running this country off the rails to the point that I'm not even involved in politics, and I understand that what was happening was not sustainable. This country would implode on itself in less than 50 years if it keeps going the way it's going. You say you see me? Yeah. Hey, Niana. It's all right, CC. Welcome back. But yeah. Anyway, enough of that, because Lord knows I did not want to jump on here, and because it's plenty of other live streams that either want to praise him or slam him, so we ain't gotta go there. I know we energy. We are plenty of energy, but we are energy, but we are while we are bound in these 3D avatars, it is not wise of us to continue to ignore that, because that's part of the reason that we stay stuck in this 3D loop is because some folks don't want to acknowledge it at all, and some people want to bypass the avatar. But according to Thoth and Yeshua, we have some spiritual work to do while we're encapsulated in these in these physical avatars. Oh, to what, a channel? Oh, to We Are Energy. Okay, cool. Let me write it down. I actually may have plugged into her before. I'm not sure. Let's see. Hold on. And my apologies in. I Why do I always find pens that don't write? They will eventually write, but yeah. Okay. I wrote it down so I can check it later. Thank you for the heads up, Nicole Yard, and welcome in. I'm sorry. Okay, cool, cool, cool. You say you're not on an election roll? Yeah. No, I'm just saying because I get it. Even the people here that's in the United States don't really know what's going on in environment because, like I said, the loudest noise is from the left. And if you only watching the news and you're not physically here and kind of see how our country is falling apart, you really won't know what's going on. But he's not nearly, like I said, he ain't nowhere near the demon that they trying to make him out to be. He's quite the opposite. He's trying. I believe he's sincere. I honestly believe he's probably one of the very, very few. 38 of our presidents so far. We don't. He's what he set 47 because he's doubled up. Clinton doubled. Uh, Bush doubled. We've had several, but so out of 47 presidencies, 38 of 47 presidencies have been held by people that are in the same bloodline. We've never had an honest election on this in this country, period. We are given selections and we can kind of sort of choose between what they put before us. Like kids sitting at a table, mama asks you, do you want carrots or peas? But you're going to have one or the other. That's how our elections have run ever since this country been around. We've never genuinely had a democratic election ever in this country. But along comes Trump, and I don't think he's in the bloodline, y'all. I think he's truly a dark horse. And that's why they hate him so much. And thank you, Cece. I appreciate you. Ooh, I'm about to throw my tablet on the ground, all of that. But yeah, let's get on to some good stuff. I don't want to stay on politics all night. Are we going to be in the Emerald Tablets tonight, the Lost Book of Enki, or the Bible, y'all? Take your pick, or bring up a subject you'd rather talk about. Can I do a read for the room? Ooh, not on this channel, Robin. I'm not going to do tarot on this one anymore. It has to be on Anunnaki Oracle Priestess. And I wasn't planning on going live on there, but I probably will do a live general for those who choose to show up. Um, but yeah. And honestly, this room is going to, it would be difficult for me to read anyway without him, without offending some people, because I've already kind of sort of, my guys have given me a read of the current group of people, not this specific room per se, but the people, the mix of people that are kind of coming towards me now, trolls included. So I kind of sort of understand why the energy is kind of flowing the way it is. And I'm not even gonna say I deal with it or tolerate it, because truthfully I have to welcome it, because the one, I'm, like it or not, the most damaged souls are the ones I'm actually here for. It's cool that I got people in here that are on the same page and they get what I'm talking about, and they love it, love it, love it, and they soaking up everything I say, and I'm blessed because they all make it easy. But who I'm actually here for are the doubters, the ones who really don't understand, the ones who come in protesting and talking all of that yap. Truthfully, the ones that ain't got nothing better to do than troll, kind of, sort of. You said, have I ever caught in a past life reading done on myself? Um, I have had a couple folks look in the past. I actually did a past life regression with a hypnotist once upon a time. Uh, and I had a person who said that they were willing to look into some past life, but we were kind of on the same page about a lot of stuff anyway. So I kind of sort of knew where that was going to go. For the most part, though, Nicole Yard, I have not looked extensively into my past life or lives, because I understood that I am here. I've been shown certain things about my soul contract and shown glimpses of things from past lives, but to actually have an outside person do a reading, number one, most past life readings want to tap into you either through regression or some, or like hypnotherapy or something like that. And I don't, spiritually, I don't want to open myself up like that to just anybody, because there's a lot of folks out here that we ain't on the same type of spiritual time. And you don't, just because somebody say they do hypnotherapy or they do past life regression, you don't know what their soul is like spiritually. And if you open yourself to the wrong folks, especially when you know the energy and who you walk with, and you know that you do actually have some real spiritual energies out there, um, that are on, like, I'm not imagining spiritual attack. I know for a fact that there are some folks that knew who I was spiritually before I knew who I was spiritually, and I have had spiritual attack to deal with. So I just I shy away from like opening myself to being read in my past life by other people, but I do understand that I am here as an old soul. This is not my first rodeo, and I am here closing multiple karmic lessons, cycles, if you will, for my lineage, for the lineage. I don't honestly, the lineage, my family that I'm in right now, that I was born into this go around, I don't believe this is a long lineage for me. I think I was placed in this lineage, one, as a protective point because of the spiritual trajectory it would set me out on. And there were some very intense karmic lessons for me to learn by coming through this lineage and this belief system. And I'm doing some soul work, like closing some karmic cycles for the ancestors in that lineage too. Lana, no, I have no intention to read the Quran either. I really, again, I was raised in a very strict Christian household. I read the Bible extensively, extensively, extensively. Now, once I left Christianity, I considered going into other religions, except, hey, Broken Beautiful, how are you? Broken Beautifully. But once I started like looking at religions all the way around and realized that Islam, Christianity, and Judaism all worship basically the same deity, and I understood the true nature of that deity, I have no need to read the Talmud or the Quran anymore. Number one. And secondly, even if I didn't understand them to be the same deity, which I do, I just finished watching something today that was discussing like Islam. You said, please look at your old comment. Hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. Nicole Yard. Let me go back. You use the wrong wording when it comes to someone of your educational spiritual background. You have to be mindful of that. Oh, it's no problem. It's no problem at all. I was just trying to explain to anybody that may have that question as to why I don't, because some folks really, really harp on, oh, go have a past life regression done, have a past. My guides didn't let me know that that was something I wanted to do, and I really didn't want to open myself to being hypnotized. And actually, at this point, there is one person that I'm considering allowing to peer into my past life like that, but I just have, she's in Florida, and I don't want to do it over the phone. I'd like to do it when I actually get a chance to sit with her again. Um, but for the most part, I'm moving forward. So there's not a whole lot of reason for me to get stuck mucking around in the back there, unless or until my guides tell me I need to. There's just no need for me to do that. Um, but yeah, and Lana, again, well, I don't say things directly to be offensive, but I'm aware that what I'm saying will be offensive to those who don't understand. But I'm hoping that I trigger you enough to go do your own homework so you can see what I'm talking about. When it comes to Islam, honey, anybody that can support Sharia law that allows marriage of children, that ain't nothing I'd ever want to put my hand nowhere near. See, we get stuck on the fact that they make women wear hijab. I don't care because I wear hijab. I don't mind covering my hair 90% of the time. Yeah, this is new for me to even be here and showing my hair today. I don't have a problem with that. But I have a real problem when grown men with gray hair and beards are literally crying like babies because the country that they live in wants to change the law so that they cannot marry anybody under the age of 18, and they show up in the hundreds of thousands to protest that, and then the government caves in to allow them to continue to abuse and marry little girls. They talking about, oh, if she's matured, then she can marry, and under Sharia law, if she's bled, she's mature enough to marry, so they can marry 9 and 10 and 11-year-old little girls. Ain't nobody gonna never tell me that that's a religion that anybody needs to be bothered with. So I'm so sorry, can't do that. Hey, big guy Dante, how are you doing? Welcome in, welcome in. You say you want the one done, but like you say, you want to do the right person, so you're gonna let source lead you to that person. Exactly, exactly. You, absolutely. And I think that's the smartest thing for you to do, because everybody don't need to be digging around in your energy like that. You're right. No, honey, it wasn't what I heard from the news. It's what I heard from a sister that was over in Somalia. She's a Somalian that was discussing it completely. And I've dated Muslim men that was sitting up there justifying female circumcision and things like that. So it's not what I just hear on the news. You are brainwashed. If you want to continue to support that, you can. I just refuse to support it, because I will not go to sleep and continue to worship the devil. Allah traces back to El, who traces back to Baal, who traces back to Yahweh. So Yahweh, Jehovah, and Allah, El, is basically the same deity. And he's the devil when Yeshua told the Jews he was the devil, and he's the devil when he turned around and hoodwinked Allah, Muhammad, peace be upon him. And the reason I know it ain't the truth, because even in the Muslim countries, there's no peace. There's more fighting amongst yourselves. You fight and kill each other. You're starving to death. In Christian countries, they're out fighting all over the place. And there's hunger. In Jewish nations, they fighting and killing each other and everybody else. Allah is not the true God, because if Allah, Yahweh, Jehovah was the true God, the people that worship him would have peace and prosperity. There is no peace and prosperity for those who worship Yahweh. Never has been, never will be, because Yahweh ain't about peace. Yahweh is a liar and a manslayer. Yeshua said so right in the Bible. That part. Hey, J Devour. Hey, keep your heads up. Welcome, welcome. Are you safe? I hope you're safe, JD Devour. You safe over here? Yeah. That's the part that I'm here to help people understand. I don't slam Christianity by itself. All of the Abrahamic religions are false. They took over the planet 2,500 years ago. Judaism came in 500 BC. Christianity came in 325 AD. Islam came in 600 AD, and there's been no peace on this planet ever since. Yahweh was exiled for a time, and then he turned around and was leashed back out onto humanity. And look at the hot mess we got going now. We talked about that in the last live stream. Revelation says that Satan, the devil, would be bound for 1,000 years, and then he would be loosed for a time to do his worst amongst the nation in the gathering of Gog and Magog. Let's look at that. I can't get quoted all together. You said without you even seeing the news, it don't sound far-fetched, so that you'll need to back up. Yeah. I saw I put it in the live, I put it in the chat group, my WhatsApp chat group, and I had to put a note on there. This is very disturbing, but it's necessary information to see. And the girl's name that does the channel, I forgot what her name is. I'm gonna have to look it up, and I'll probably wind up, I might even link it to this live stream when it's over with. But she is African. I believe she is Somali. I think she may not be living in Somalia now, because she wasn't covered and all. But she was showing the videos of these grown behind men. Two of them were in Somalia. One of them then left Somalia and has living in a Western country. Young dude, but still supporting that foolishness. And I'm like, and you wonder why their birth mortality rate is so high, because ain't no 10-year-old little children got no business having babies. That's why. You said to control a slave, you're not free. You're made to believe you're free. Exactly. The people that you know created this deity in the Bible created him in the false pretense of fear. Actually, Nicole, they didn't have to create him in a false pretense of fear. He is a fearsome being. He is real. He just ain't the invisible sky daddy that everybody want to tell him. I highly encourage you, after this live stream, Go back and look at my last 2 previous live streams. They're kind of lengthy, but we get into a lot of this. I'm reading out of the Lost Book of Enki in the, not this last one, but the one before. In the last live stream I did the other night, we got extensively into the scriptures. We were talking about the nature of Yahweh, who he is and what he did. He is a being, a flesh and blood being. And he appeared as a flesh and blood being one time in this Bible. They told that lie that no man could see God and yet live, but he appeared in the flesh to Abraham in Genesis chapter 18. Go read it and check it out. It's fascinating. But who he really is Enlil. He told Abraham he was El Elyon, the destroyer. That was when he was doing the word games. He wouldn't even tell them people his real name when they first started worshiping him. He just said, follow me. I'll make your name a mighty people. Well, who do I say sent me? Tell them I said who I said it, who I am, who I say I am sent you. What kind of foolishness is that? You want me to worship you and you won't even tell me your real name? Because he's been known by a lot of different names. He was known as Yahweh. And Christians, that they remixed that. The Romans remixed it and started calling him Jehovah. But he was Yahweh. He done been Beelzebub, Baal, Dionysus, Yao, Yaldabaoth, Odin, Zeus, Set. He been a whole lot of different names. And he ain't been nice in none of the pantheons he's shown up in. He's always hated humans. He's always been very violent, very vengeful, very jealous, very bloodthirsty. And one of the reasons Muslims and Christians and Jews can tolerate women being violated, because that's who he is. He violated the woman that became his own wife. Had to go to before the 7 who judge and his daddy back on Nibiru. They had a whole trial and everything. Fortunately, or whatever, she forgave him and agreed to marry him anyway, but he violated his own fiance before she got to be his fiance. Yahweh don't give a flip. He's violence. But this is what people chose to worship. Why? Because of that. Well, and mama and granddaddy and mama said and granddaddy said and the preacher said and the pastor said. We follow Yahweh because Abraham chose to follow Yahweh. We follow Yahweh because Moses chose to follow Yahweh. And because these people continue to do what their ancestors did without asking any questions, we've all been sucked into that train. But Abraham wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, and neither was Moses. Abraham was a liar, and Moses was a murderer. And they got sucked into worshiping a liar and a murderer. And then the whole nation followed behind them. And truthfully, even the nation bucked on serving Yahweh. The Israelites did not serve Yahweh continuously. They stopped serving Yahweh and went back to serving Asherah a couple times in the Bible. Go read 1st and 2nd Kings and Amos and Obadiah. Tell you, they stopped worshiping Yahweh. Why? Because Yahweh never kept his promises to none of them. Never. He promised Abraham he was going to give him a child in his old age and make his name a mighty people. Well, he kind of sort of, he did. Yeah, he gave him a child in his old age, but the man damn near died of old age before he got that child. Yahweh made that promise to Abraham when Abraham was 74 years old. He did not fulfill that promise to Abraham until Abraham was 99 years old. And then after Isaac was born, Yahweh said, prove your loyalty to me. Take him up on the mountaintop and cut his throat. Sacrifice him to me. Took you 1/4 century to fulfill your promise to me, and now you want me to unalive my own child just to prove my loyalty to you? Really? No, well, Joshua and Caleb, they continued the Yahweh lie, because Abraham, like I said, you see, you kept wondering why they were going back and forth, because he didn't keep his word. He said he was going to make Israel a mighty nation. Abraham was the father of the Israelite nation. Right there, it started with Isaac. And then Isaac had, I think, Jacob. And Jacob, well, they had Esau and Jacob. But if you recall, and that's why we got into the Yeshua thing, when Isaac bore Jacob, Jacob had a twin, Esau. Yahweh hated Esau because the Edomites came from Esau. They didn't F with Yahweh, period. They were wise, spiritual people. They separated themselves from the rest of the nation of Israel and they started living in the caves and the mountains. They exiled themselves away from the nation of Israel. And the scriptures say, Esau have I hated, Jacob have I loved. So then when Israel is coming up and doing their thing and all the rest of that, but Yahweh abandoned them. How do you think they came to be enslaved in Egypt? If Yahweh had been backing them like he said, I'm going to make your name a mighty people. How mighty were they when they was out there roaming around in the desert? And they roamed around as nomads in the desert for so long that they got captured by the Egyptians and were taken into slavery in Egypt. That's how well Yahweh took care of them and turned around and bragged about it in Amos and Obadiah. Oh, I brought famine to you, and still you did not return to me. And I caused the crops to wither, and disease and pestilence. I sent you scourges and curses, and still you did not return to me. Really? Why would I return to you? You out here literally telling us, you sending us the oogly boogly. You're sending curses and scourges our way, and you mad because we ain't returning to you? For real? So once they're enslaved in Egypt, Moses, who was born an Israelite, but he was raised in the Pharaoh's house. We've all heard the story that Pharaoh's daughter got him in the bushes as a baby in the rushes and all of that good stuff. And then they turned around. He got mad because one of Pharaoh's folks was mistreating one of the slaves, one of the Israelite slaves. He struck the Pharaoh's servant, and he struck the guard, and the guard fell dead. And Moses got scared and left Egypt on the run in fear for his life. He was a refugee on the run in fear for his literal life because he had killed one of the Pharaoh's guards. And while he was out there on the run in the desert, here come Yahweh again. Look, Moses, I know. I said I was going to make y'all name a mighty people and I didn't hold my word up or whatever. But I promise you this time, I want you to go back in there and talk to the Pharaoh and get the Pharaoh to release the Israelites to me. And if you do that for me, I'm going to lead y'all to a land flowing with milk and honey. That's the premise. That's why all of that we saw about the Egypt, the Ten Commandments, and Charlton Heston did the movie, and they come out there and the 10 plagues and the water turning to blood and all of that. That's because Yahweh at that point, I guess, was out of exile, but he did not have a people and he did not have a land. Well, that's what Nicole, you in the right place, baby. You stick around here because we do read quite a bit in the scriptures here. And what I'm explaining now, I could go and just read the whole bit, but I'm giving you the synopsis right now. I'm kind of the nerdy, esoteric librarian. I read it so you don't have to kind of deal. But yeah, um, but yeah, when the Israelite Moses went out there, Yahweh said, "Go approach the Pharaoh. I want the nation of Israel. I need a people." Because he had nobody worshiping him at that point. He treated people so nasty. Why would they when they could worship Sin or Nanar or Asherah or any of the other gods that they were worshiping? He even told them about they was worshiping Kiyun, the sky god, at one point. Abraham came out of his father had been a scribe in the temple of Nanarsin. They were worshiping some of everybody but Yahweh, but Yahweh wanted a people to himself. So he told Moses to go back and approach the Pharaoh. Moses was like, If I go back there, he gonna kill me. He said, don't worry about it. I got you. I need you to do this anyway. Moses said, I have a stutter. I can't really talk. He sent Aaron along with him. Don't worry about it. I got you. I want you to go do this anyway. He said, but what about the magic? And I'm going to give you some tricks in your bag, Moses, but I want you to go do this anyway. So Moses goes and approaches the Pharaoh. And of course, the Pharaoh laughed him out of there. You out your rabbit ass mind. Why would I turn my folks loose to you, Moses? I done gave you a place to stay, and you thanked me by killing my servant in my house. Moses, you lucky I don't strike you dead. Moses. So now Moses got to buck it up and, well, Yahweh said, let my people go. And if you don't let my people go, it's going to be consequences and repercussions up in her. Moses, Pharaoh said, get the hell out of here with that. You think you somebody? I got people too. So Moses comes back. Yahweh told him, look, I'm going to give you a little flashbang. I'm going to give you a little razzle dazzle. We got some magic for you. You're going to go in there and show them what you got with the magic. So Moses go in with his staff, his walking stick, and he said, my God said, let my people go. Pharaoh said, huh, you out your mind. Moses said, watch this. I'm going to throw down the sticks and I can show you I got magic back in me. He threw his walking stick down and it became a snake. Pharaoh said, you ain't said but a word. I got magicians too. His magicians came in, threw down their sticks on the ground and they became snakes. And then Moses' snake ate up their snakes. Now that was a pretty good trick, but that still didn't get the Pharaoh's attention. Hey, Shawanda Sheree, welcome, welcome. You said the volume is low, but it's turned up. Let me see if I can. Oh, snap. Hold on. Well, I got mine turned up as loud as I can. Is everybody else's okay? You said the esoteric book is separate from the Bible. No, no, baby. I'm telling you what's in the Bible. If you go read it, I'm just giving you the abbreviated version. I used to tongue in cheek. I used to call myself the nerdy esoteric librarian because I was interested in these spiritual things. But no, I'm telling you the Bible story. This is just they gloss it over for the Sunday school version. But if you go and read the account of what happened with Egypt in the nation of Israel coming out of Egypt, every bit of what I'm telling you is in there. So the first trick he did was with the snakes. But again, we're told we ain't supposed to do divination or magic or nothing else. That was sorcery. You gonna throw a stick on the ground and it becomes snakes for real? Hey, Skin by Lauren, how you doing? And welcome in. And hey, Natalie Rose, welcome to you too, my dear. So that was the first thing. And then I can't remember all of the plagues in order because it's been a minute since I went up in there. But they turned all of the water in Egypt into blood so that they couldn't bathe or drink or water their crops. They had gnats come and attack them. This is Yahweh now sending plagues to these people. He was good for that. He would stir up some razzle dazzle in a minute. He turned the water to blood. He sent gnats in there. He sent locusts in to eat up all the crops. Sent boils to them. Had frogs overrun the area. 3 days of darkness amongst the Egyptians. Hailstones came down and destroyed all of the crops that the locusts didn't eat up. And then I forgot what the other, I think it was a sandstorm or something. I don't know, sickness, drought. They had all kinds of stuff. But the final plague was where the Passover meal came from. He told the Jews, look, I'm getting ready to do my big one. What I want y'all to do is you go in there, get ready to roll, get the Passover meal together. I want you to slaughter a yearling calf or goat. I mean, a sheep or goat. It can be either one, but a yearling, your yearling goat, it has to be blemishless, perfect, no flaws. Slaughter that animal. I want you to consume all of it tonight. You have that meal with bitter greens. I want you to have unleavened bread. For 7 nights, they could not have any leaven in their house. They were to prepare the meal with unleavened bread, bitter greens, and a yearling sheep or goat that they had to consume all in one night. They were to prepare it and eat that meal ready to roll with their clothes on and their sandals and all of that, and take the blood from that goat and smear it across the top of your doorpost. Don't forget that part, because I'm finna send the angel of death through here, and every household that does not have that blood on the doorpost, I'm taking out the firstborn child and their firstborn livestock. And he did it throughout the entire nation of Israel. He turned around that night over Passover night, and an angel, y'all, is just a messenger. Those were lower Anunnaki that was on y'all on Team Yahweh doing his bidding. They went through, and every firstborn child out of the entire nation of Israel, and the nation of Egypt, including the Pharaoh's son and all of their firstborn livestock, they slaughtered them all in that night. And finally, Pharaoh said, "You know what? I'm sick of y'all. Yahweh, Israelites, all of y'all get the hell out. Go on about your business." Taking them. And he changed his mind and went behind them and all the rest of that. And Yahweh had one more piece of razzle dazzle, and they did the parting of the Red Sea, which is truthfully, they said in the scriptures, the real place that they crossed was not the Red Sea, but it was called the Sea of Reeds. And it actually did dry up at some point during the year. It was very shallow, a narrow and shallow crossing. They could have very easily passed through the Sea of Reeds. It wasn't, but that's another discrepancy for a discussion for another day. Say what now? Hey, Patricia Polton. Exactly. Well, they don't they don't disavow what happened, but in church Skin by Lauren, they give you the watered down version and try to pull the blessing out of that lesson. Oh, because the nation was preserved, it was all good. But you done sat up here and killed up how many thousands and thousands of people overnight, and the livestock and the animals. But I'm not even arguing the justification of that. I'm just discussing the nature of Yahweh. Oh, you wondered about the crossing of the Red Sea? Yeah, anthropologists say that that's most likely a mistranslation. It was the Sea of Reeds that they actually crossed, and it would have been very easy for the nation of Israel to do that. No razzle dazzle, no sorcery truly needed in that event. But again, you got to remember, these books were not written as eyewitness accounts. We read them. The preachers tell us to read the Bible like they were written by people that were there, the eyewitness accounts, and they were carefully preserved, and now we're reading it. No, these were copies of ancient legends and stories, and some of the Anunnaki tales and all the rest of that. But this stuff was carefully redacted and abbreviated and remixed into the current versions we see now. Honey, all of them are mistranslations, because they did it based on, for a long time. Remember, for a very long time, only the church, the hierarchy, could have any of these sacred texts. So over time, some of them were genuinely changed just to suit the political notions or to appease whatever the religious leanings of whoever was on the throne at the time. These were manipulated for political reasons too. Hey, Kalina Emrys, welcome in. And how are you doing? I'm doing well. So you said red sea salt is good for saltwater aquariums. I've never seen or heard that. That's fine. I know as long as they don't get Dead Sea stuff, because that's too salty for anything. But yeah, you said the spiritual warfare didn't just start now. It's always been a spiritual warfare act when it was a frequency warfare. It wasn't a frequency warfare though, Nicole Yard. The Anunnaki wars were very real wars with very real beings, and humans have been caught in the crossfire of that mess forever. We want to sit here and look at deities and gods and the Pharaoh, and we've been told that the Pharaoh is part God and all that. No, they weren't. The initial priest kings were Anunnakis themselves, and then the initial priest kings were the Anunnaki hybrids. That's why they lived for so long. If you go look at the Sumerian kings list in the museum over there, I think it's in Oxford that they've got that kings list. It shows you that a lot of those kings reigned for like 30, 40, 50,000 years, because they were living that long then. They were Anunnaki hybrids. And the further we got away from the original Anunnaki blood and the human bloodline started taking in, then the lifespans came down some. But even when you get to Genesis chapter 5, it says Methuselah lived 969 years. People think that that's a lie. No, it ain't. They lived that long. It wasn't until after the Tower of Babel that Enlil insisted that our telomeres be capped to limit our lifespans. Our lifespans were limited with intention because he didn't want us to live long enough to figure out the truth. The only way to keep us entrapped in this lie is to have our lifespans be so short that we're just going by hearsay based on what one or two generations said. If people were sticking around for 20, 30, 40,000 years and still had eyewitness memory of this mess could have never been perpetuated the way it was. So our lifespans were intentionally shortened. But it wasn't just a frequency war, it was a real war. The Lost Book of Enki tells you about Marduk actually unleashing the weapons of terror against Ninurta in the war and wiped out the Sumerian civilization. Sumer, Eridu, Ur, and was it Shurabak? I think all four of those major cities were wiped out overnight because them two Anunnaki beings, the son of Enki and the son of Enlil, busy having a pissing contest, and he messed around and unleashed weapons that were used in galactic warfare on spaceships that were never supposed to be used on land. He turned around and unleashed it on land and wiped out most of those cities, those civilizations overnight. That wasn't just imaginary or frequency. Yeah, several of them lived hundreds of years. In fact, I caught something, and that's one of the reasons I said we're going to go back. I'm going to go back and start reading the Lost Book of Enki again because I missed it the first time. Adapa and Titi are the biological offspring of Enki, according to this book. They were not made in a test tube. They were not created in a lab. They were created because after Adam and Eve were created in the lab with the Anunnaki DNA and all the rest of that, over time, their bloodline began to devolve. After about 130,000 years, their bloodline began to devolve, and he noticed that humanity was not as intelligent as it had been, and he shored up that bloodline organically. He did it. He literally mated with two humans, Dawn and Dusk, and the children that came out of those matings were Adapa and Titi, and they are referred to as the first civilized man. Adapa and Titi are the biblical Adam and Eve. And according to the Anunnaki texts, Adapa lived 13, no, 14 and a half shars. He was born in the 93rd shar and he passed in the 108th shar. A shar is 3,600 years. So Adapa lived 50,000 years on this planet, according to the ancient text. Now, you can believe this also ran that just popped up in print 400 years ago. And it was compiled and made 1,000 years ago or 1,700 years ago. But these texts go back 400,000 years, and they tell us right in there that Adapa lived 50,000 years. Enoch, Methuselah, all of them. A lot of those names that appear in the Bible appear in this book too, but they give you the rest of the story in this book. That's one of the reasons I like reading them, kind of going back and forth side by side, because it doesn't contradict this book. It just gives you further context to give you the rest of the story, like the flood story. That when I was Nicole, when I was suggesting go back and look at my last two live streams, not this past one. The past one, I think I was in the Bible. The one before that, we were reading the flood account from this book. It was telling you how and why it came about, what they did, what happened. It clears up a lot of the stuff that don't make no sense in the Bible story. Like, how in the world do you get all of the species on Earth into a boat? I don't care how big it is. How you gonna get two of everything, 2 by 2 and 7 by 7, and that stuff they tell you in church, and they claim that that Noah. They claim it took Noah 40 years to build the ark, and simultaneously, while he was building the ark, supposedly he was also traveling all around the world to collect all of the animals so that he could lead them into the ark. That's not what this book say. The ark, the vessel, I'm not even gonna call it an ark. The vessel that Noah Ziazudra was in it was built in 1 week's time, because they did it like a barn raising. He told the people in the area that Lord Enlil, Yahweh, Jehovah, was displeased with him. He had to return to his Lord Enki, his brother. Enki and Enlil are brothers. This is the part that the Bible, because they genericized everything and said everywhere it says God in this book, it should say Elohim. And Elohim is not a singular term. Elohim means powerful ones in the plural. So truthfully, if you know what you're reading in this book, it do talk about more than one God, even though Yahweh is jealous. But because Christianity was promoting the Yahweh lie, it genericized everything. There was no names of these various ones. The only names we hear is Asherah, Kiyun, and Beelzebub in a negative connotation very early on in the Pentateuch, the first 5 books. And then after that, everything else is whitewashed so that it's all Yahweh, Jehovah. But that's not the truth. In fact, we were talking about it the other day. The more I think about the Job story, I believe Job was a servant of Enki, and Yahweh tested him and killed his children and killed his livestock and all of that to test his loyalty to Enki. Because it was 2 brothers in there having a conversation. It says that Satan came in amongst the sons of God or whatever during the meeting, and they was all talking to Big Daddy. So truthfully, if you let me go back to Job chapter 1, because if you actually read that, it sounds like they was having a conversation with his father Anu. Anu did not come to earth to rule, but he did pull up here physically on earth a couple times to check on them and see what was going on and to see the humans, and because we were a big deal. They dared to play God. They messed with the creator of all's creation and manipulated a life form that was here, hybridized a life form that was here by putting their DNA with that hybrid's DNA. And they created an entirely new species without direct permission from the creator of all. So they did a home invasion and came here and tampered with God's stuff, the real God, and then turned around and started parading around, lying to people and telling them they were gods. That was Enlil's contribution to the whole thing. Enki, Ninmah, and Thoth actually fashioned humans, but Enlil had rule of earth, and he said that we were never to know that they're not gods. They told that lie that we are gods. We were not allowed to see their faces. If we messed around and saw their faces, we were to be instantly unalived. And then he insisted on having a worship gene installed in us just to make us worship them. And then later on, when he really found out humanity was getting too wise for our own good, he insisted on having our telomeres capped so that we would have a shorter lifespan, so we couldn't live long enough to find out the truth. But at the beginning of Job, now this is the part that always gets me. It says, there was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job, and that man was blameless and upright, one who feared the Elohim and turned away from evil. There were born to him 7 sons and 3 daughters. He possessed 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camel, 500 yoke of oxen, and 500 female donkeys, and very many servants, so that this man was the greatest of all the people of the East. His sons used to go and hold a feast in the house of each one on his day, and they would send and invite their three sisters to eat and drink with them. And when the days of the feast had run their course, Job would send and consecrate them, and he would rise early in the morning and offer burnt offerings according to the number of them all. For Job said, "It may be that my children have sinned and cursed Elohim in their hearts." Thus Job did continuously. So he was a faithful servant, doing his offerings, doing his all the rest of that. Now there was a day when the sons of God, the El Shaddai, the sons of the Elohim, came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came among them. Now remember, folks that don't want to hear this part, but Enlil, Yahweh, Jehovah, his title when he got here to earth was Satan of the Eden. So when the sons of the Elohim came to present themselves before the Lord, and in this instance, I believe the Lord they're referring to would have been their father, Anu, and Satan came among them. The Lord said to Satan, or it could have even been Enki, but yeah, the Lord, Satan ain't talking to himself. So it was either Anu or Enki, but Satan came in amongst them. From where have you come? Satan answered the Lord and said, from going to and fro on the earth and from walking up and down on it. And the Lord said to Satan, have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man who fears the Elohim and turns away from evil? Then Satan answered the Lord and said, does Job fear the Elohim for no reason? Have you not put a hedge around him and his house and all that he has on every side? You have blessed the work of his hands, and his possessions have increased in the land. But stretch out your hand and touch all that he has, and he will curse you to your face. And the Lord said unto Satan, behold, all that he has is in your hand, only against him do not stretch out your hand. So Satan went out from amongst the presence of the Lord. So most likely because he was like I said, Anu did not get involved in the daily stuff they had going on, so it probably was Enki. And again, that's a novel concept to folks that are caught up in Christianity, because they want to believe that the only Elohim mentioned in this book are stories of Yahweh only. But in the Job story, yes, shamanic, this is the Job story, not Joshua, Patricia, it's Job. Who is the Lord of the, again, that idea, let go of the idea of pagan God for just a minute. We're going to get back to that, Patricia. But the idea of, we look at paganism as being so bad because Christianity told us that. But in truth, Yahweh is just as pagan as anything else out there, worship of Pa. And he's basically cut the divine feminine out of all three of the Abrahamic religions. So there is no more pagan religions on this planet than Yahwistic religions. Hey, P Vader 859, how are you? Hey, Mermaid on the Moon, welcome, welcome. So yeah, when in the Lost Book of Enki, when it gives us the story of Noah, and it talks about how Noah was actually the biological son of Enki, is what, like, look, one of the reasons I respect this book so much and believe it's authentic is because Yahweh, even though he's done all these horrible things and he waged all these wars and he had women violated and all of the just disgusting things in this Bible, he tried to turn around and paint himself as good. They try to remix it and make you close your eyes and let go of your common sense to try to convince people that Yahweh is all good in this book. Enki don't do that here. He admits the good, the bad, and the ugly. You can judge how you choose. He just tell you that what had happened was. And I really respect that, because we can judge him for it all we want, but we have to understand their morality was not like our morality. But when I say Papa was a Rolling Stone, oh, Enki got his freak on. They didn't care nothing about being faithful to one wife. They really didn't. Ninmah is their sister. She had a son for Enki and two daughters for, a son for Enlil and two daughters for Enki. They was all brothers and sisters by different fathers, or different mothers rather. All had the same father, but they all had different mothers. and she bore a son for Enlil and two daughters for Enki, even though his wife Damkina was still there on hand too. So we can't continue to kind of look at things the way religion tell us to, or judge them the way we judge ourselves. No, they're not two parable stories. Again, shamanic, either be quiet, because it's not a parable. A parable is what Yeshua would give, were fictionalized stories to give you just an idea of a principle. But according to this, the flood actually ain't even according to the Bible in the Lost Book of Enki. According to geologists, the flood happened. The Babylonian epic says the flood happened. The Sumerian epic says the flood happened. And the oldest of these, the Anunnaki story, says the flood happened. Ziusudra is the name that he was known by in the Anunnaki text. By the time we hear the Bible story rendition of it, they call him Noah. But it is the same being, it's talking about the same event. But it does, and even the biblical scholars will tell you, it is said that Noah was very different. He had white hair and very fair skin, bright blue eyes. I don't even think he was regular albinism. It was past that. He was very tall. He lived a long time. He was an Anunnaki, because this book tells you that. Enki made it with a human, and Ziusudra was the result of that. So when Enlil said, let the humans all die, let them drown in the flood, Enki wasn't about that. He wanted, by shamanic, now you on your stupidity. I was hoping you was gonna come in here and chill. Don't nobody know, none of the Jews, didn't nobody in this room personally know Yahweh either. Everything we've got from all of our traditions are coming from things that we read. But I'm telling you, I would much rather believe the older book that tells the good, bad, and the ugly than the recently remixed book that try to paint this monster out to be the good guy, because he's not a good guy. Okay. Well, I take Enki real seriously, so you gonna have to find something else to play with, especially while I'm teaching. But yeah, when we get around to Ziusudra, they even said in this book how the creator of all's messenger, Galzu, appeared to Enki in a dream and told him that humans were supposed to be preserved. Even though Enlil, Yahweh, Jehovah, said, let us all drown, Enki said no, he was going to preserve his son and whoever wanted to get on the ark with him. And they told him how to make the boat so that he could survive. And Ninmah and him, being the geneticists that they are, they enclose genetic samples of a lot of the plants and animals around, and enclose those genetic samples, the DNA samples of those animals, into a smaller chest that they also put in that boat with Ziusudra, so that if for whatever reason Ziusudra did not actually survive the flood with the boat, because they told them how to do it, but none of them had, if it wasn't completely airtight, they might not have made it. So just as a extra protection, while they were building the vessel, Enki and Ninmah went and collected as many genetic samples as they could and included those in the boat. That makes a whole lot more sense than to think he went out there and put two elephants and two polar bears and two dinosaurs. And because my thing was, when you get down to the Komodo dragon, if they put two Komodo dragons in that boat, it wouldn't have been nothing left but bones in there when that ark landed. Right or wrong? And we got it, like I said, how is it if the supposedly, according to whatever, I don't know exactly when the flood happened. You said that we become more materialized over the ages. We was always materialized, honey. That's what I'm trying to tell you. When they came here from Nibiru, this book also tell you about why they came here. This book starts in Genesis. It gives you this sweeping synopsis that they cover millions of years with the whole idea of in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the earth, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. They don't even know that because earth was already made when they got here. This is that again, that's a little more of the religiosity razzle dazzle that they give you to try to explain some of the backstory that they don't have the full information for. Ea, Ki, that was Earth's name. According to them, they knew it was here for a long time. When they came and settled on Nibiru, they knew it was there because in the legends had it that the gold that they were looking for, they knew it was there because supposedly the gold on Earth is actually shrapnel that was embedded in Earth from the explosion of Tiamat, which was one of their legends. You said now you picking up about the DNA chest on the ark. Yeah, exactly, Natalie Rose. They're telling it. This story has been basically look. And again, you don't want to insult people because they can't. They think they so much. They get so superior in their Christian self righteousness. But this really is the kindergarten version. When you awaken a little bit, you start reading it differently through the eyes of the mystic, and you kind of sort of get the high school version. When you actually break the bonds of religiosity and start reading other ancient texts that they also found when they started finding these, go back and start reading the apocryphal text and all the stuff that the church don't want you to read. That's when you can go back and read this and get, like I said, the kind of the postgraduate version of this and see the bigger picture. But if you only want to take this at face value and take it along with the way that religion has doctrinalized it, you will stay stuck forever in very rudimentary understanding and rudimentary ideas of what I call religiosity. And I know that religiosity is not necessarily a word, but this ain't real spirituality. Religion is a binding control point. The word religion comes from the Greek word religare, which means to bind or hold back. There's a reason why religion has always been given to the masses, but the real hierarchy, they show up in church for christenings and Christmas Day and political events where they need to show their face, but they're not really tied up in religion like that. It's poor folk, broke folk is the ones that take religion so seriously because the hierarchy know it for what it is. Exactly, but again, Patricia, you say you find it absolutely interesting that the time scale doesn't fit with the Christian teachings of today, like Earth has been here for eons. But part of that's because, again, you got to remember Christianity was written 1700 years ago by Constantine, who was a sun worshiper. He was not a believer in Yeshua, and he wasn't even particularly a worshiper of Yahweh. He wanted to unify his kingdom, so he called the First Council of Nicaea, and they put a whole lot of different beliefs. That's why somebody said something about pagan before. I'm like, if you really understood where all this come from, this is a pagan religion. It really is because every single one of the holidays that are embedded in Christianity has pagan origins. Every single one of them, and most of them are very bloody. So we're told Pagan and heathen is two words that the church has given us to basically make us shun everything else. By labeling things with negative terms, they make people afraid of it. Kind of like what they did when they wanted to promote the slavery thing. So they promoted the idea that the word minority means less than, as far as less pleasant, when the word minority actually only means less than in number, that kind of thing. So religion has painted the idea that pagan religions are so wrong. Meanwhile, everything in this book is pagan in origin. Everything. The binding spells, the curses, the black magic, all of it. It shows up in this book. Every bit of it is pagan in origin. But as far as the time scale, they couldn't tell you the truth about the time scale, Patricia, because that would open the discussion for more ancient texts like this. So for a long time, even up, you coming out of Catholicism, congratulations, honey, congratulations. And it's not an easy walk, but congratulations. Most people don't even understand that Catholicism is kind of the beginning of all of that, and how they don't understand how Luciferian Catholicism is in its origins. It is absolutely a Luciferian organization because, again, Luciferian, satanic, we've been given these connotations of what those words mean. It is satanic. Christianity is satanic because Satan of the Eden is Yahweh Jehovah. That was his title when he came here. Satan don't mean what we think it means. They taught us to think it means some little redhead, the devil with the pitchfork and the tail and all, and they represent Satan as a dragon because the Gnostics understood Yahweh to be a descended from a dragon. But as far as the timeline, I can remember being a child, and the religion I grew up in, they firmly believed that Earth's mankind, well, they couldn't say Earth's history was, but they felt like humanity's history was 6,000 years, period. That Adam and Eve was created 6,000 years ago. And I was like, that never made sense to me either. I'm like, well, maybe, and again, before I even understood the Anunnaki piece, I thought, well, maybe that's because maybe Caucasians came about 6,000 years ago. I don't know, but yeah, um, but it ain't even that. Truthfully, civilized humans, and it still go back more than 6,000 years. But Adapa and Titi, the Adam and Eve of the Bible, their story goes back about 11, somewhere between 11 and 15,000 years. That's why religion wants to give us that. But when Christianity came along, basically they were saying, okay, Judaism came around 600 or 700 years ago, and we're going to just start from that point. So the first 5 books of the Bible, Genesis through Deuteronomy, are also part of either the Talmud or the Torah. I can't, but they're part of the Jewish holy books as well. So they were willing to acknowledge the Jews because they took their least favorite son and martyred him and put him in here as a mascot to bridge the gap in their story, to bring folks out of worship of Yahweh into worship of Jehovah. Same being, Yahweh is Jehovah, but I'm saying, according to Christianity, the Jews messed up so bad till it's not physical Jews anymore that Yahweh has favor with. It's spiritual Israelites. We are the new, improved Israel. We're the spiritual Israel. That's the entire premise of Christianity, in case you didn't know. Okay. Let me see. Hold on. Earliest depictions of our modern devil was also depicted with African features. Early propaganda to turn Europeans against Africans so they wouldn't stop the slave trade. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's a lot of mind effery for it. It really was, because how do you read this and then have people agree to sit down and worship? Well, when this first came out, everybody couldn't read this. Only 10% of the planet or less could read at all. And it was illegal to have these texts when they first came out. Only the church hierarchy could have it. So they could pick apart and open the book, and they make a great show of reading from the book, but they could cherry pick whatever parts they want. And we just really ain't gonna talk about him over there with the sacrificing with Nadab and Abihu and flinging the blood all over the altar and coming down and eating all the raw meat and then killing Aaron's sons in front of. We ain't gonna talk about that part. Oh, we ain't gonna talk about the part where they violated the girl all night till she died. We ain't gonna talk about that part either. Or we ain't gonna. They cherry picked through and talked about what they wanted to talk about and built sermons around it. And the vast majority of people couldn't read, did not have any access whatsoever to any of these written texts, so they could tell them whatever they wanted to tell them. And you said that's why you get shunned, because you feel like you're a star seed, that you know you came from somewhere else. Of course, as did we all. But they don't want to acknowledge that part either, even though, like I said, if you read in Ezekiel, that vision that Ezekiel had with the wheel within the wheel and all the rest of that, when they talk about Enoch being taken up, now it's interesting in the scriptures, they pull the book of Enoch out of the Bible canon, but they still acknowledge Enoch in the Christian scriptures. And the gospel, the book of Enoch tells you that Enoch was taken up not once, but twice. He was taken up, and I think it was Uriel. When he was taken up, Uriel showed him around and showed him the different zones, the different realms of heaven, and gave him a lot of explanation as to what he was going to be doing and all of that. Hold on a second. I'm so sorry. A whole lot of all of that good stuff. And then told him, get your stuff together. We're bringing you back to earth. You got a year. I think it was either a year or 2 years in earth time. Teach your sons all the things that I have shown you, and teach them this and lay down this. Get your affairs in order, because we coming back for you. And when we come back for you, you won't be coming back. And that's what they did. Enoch was allowed, but again, Enoch was not fully human either. Enoch was the grandson, I think, of Methuselah, according to this other book, but Methuselah. So he was still in that Anunnaki, like I said, he was like Enki's great grandson or something like that, either grandson, great grandson, whatever. But he was of enough Anunnaki blood that he was allowed to be taken up to Nibiru. And he became a scribe of the Lord, according to that. He was a scribe for Enki. He was Enki's boy. And that's the thing that I'm saying. It really, when the more I read in the scriptures and back and forth, I'm starting to see, like in Job, when it talks about Job walked with God, he walked with the true God, he walked with the Lord. He was Enki's boy, not Enlil's. Hey, Terry, and welcome in. Same thing with Noah. The Bible says Noah walked with the true God. And we assume that they're talking about Yahweh, Jehovah, because that's what they want you to think. Noah did not walk with Yahweh. The true God, according to, would be Enki. Because again, several times in the scriptures, it tells us that Yahweh, Jehovah, Satan, is a liar and a manslayer and the father of a lie, that there's no good in him. I didn't make that up or say it. Yeshua told the Jews that in John chapter 8. So if Yahweh is the quintessential liar, the true God, by default, there's two main brothers here. The issue of sovereignty in the Bible, it tells us that the issue is sovereignty between Satan and Yahweh. Well, that's not entirely the truth. That's the lie that Christianity that had us believe, because we don't get that. We got that little piece of information left out that Satan is Yahweh. But the issue is still sovereignty, but it was sovereignty between two brothers. Two brothers that dared to come here and play God. And the one that was Enlil was given dominion of earth by Anu. Lord of the Command, that was his first title. And then his second title was Satan of the Eden. Enki was the true geneticist. He was the one who had love for humanity. He's the one that gave us art and philosophy and agriculture and all the rest of that. He gave us the zodiac and astronomy, astrology, meteorology, culture. Everything we have that's for our benefit came from Enki. And he's the one that wanted to tell us the truth. That's why he was painted as a devil, because he told Eve the truth. But if anything, when it says in the scriptures that so and so walked with the true God, they talking about this one, not Yahweh. And that was sure enough mind blowing for me, because we're so used to thinking that Yahweh is the only one. He's because he say he is. But I always wonder, wait a minute, if he was truly the only God, why would he need to be jealous? And why would he have to tell you, you shall not have, no, Enlil is not the Antichrist? No, that's not really though, Paul. Not in my opinion. Think about it. The idea of an Antichrist, Yeshua said that after they unalived him, there would come along one who would deceive the nations and lead them lost for thousands of years. Yahweh had been doing that from day one, so he really couldn't be the Antichrist. But guess who could be? Saul turned Paul, the self-appointed apostle who claimed he had that great visionary epiphany on the road to Damascus. Go read the New Testament and see if you don't agree that, in my humble opinion, now again, I haven't exactly, there was something I think Myth Vision kind of hinted towards it, but I've never actually heard anybody else come out with their whole chest and say it. But in my opinion, Paul is the Antichrist, because the whole New Testament reads like, F what y'all heard. This Jesus cat, he told y'all this. I don't care what he said. I'm the new sheriff in town, and this is what it's going to be, and this is how we're going to move forward. And he single-handedly, basically, I honestly don't think Paul wrote all of these books, but the person that's given credit to being Paul single-handedly finished bridging the gap. He came in and justified the Romans unaliving Yeshua and explained to Yeshua's followers how that was a good and necessary thing, that Yeshua's blood had to pay the propitiatory blood sacrifice to save our sorry asses, because all we was worthy of was death. And by the way, we finna roll out this new religion. We no longer calling Yahweh Yahweh. He's Jehovah now. But we're going to become this new spiritual Israel, and we off to the races. Here we go. That not anti-Christ? Because Yeshua was telling people, you don't need to keep worshiping Yahweh. The kingdom of heaven is within you. Greater things than I have done will you do. Follow me. I'm going to show you how. You can do it too. I became Christos in this lifetime right here on earth, embodied in this physical avatar, and you can do it too. And Paul said, F what you heard. You're unworthy and dirty, and you're going to have to go over here and by all means you ain't got to do the rest of the Mosaic law. Yeshua was nice enough to cancel out all of that, but do keep paying your tithes. That's the part of the Mosaic law we're going to continue to bring forward. Oh, yeah, and that little pagan ritual that we do with the eat my flesh, drink my blood, we're going to throw that in to make sure that that binding spell stays on the line of Yeshua HaMashiach and his bloodline from now until forevermore. That is anti-Christ, y'all. That's why I keep speaking. You forgot that part? Yeah. That's why I say, but I'm in the nerdy library. I remember all kinds of little crazy facts and trivia about. I used to think that I never thought I'd have a need for this bit of little crazy biblical trivia that I have, but thank goodness my parents did make me read. I'm grateful now for all of them having to read all of that stuff that I couldn't stand doing back in the day. I'm very grateful for it, because now it makes sense. It didn't make sense before. It will never make sense if you try to take what the pastor tell you. But when you learn to read with comprehension and then go read some other stuff, the non-approved church material, like I said, the stuff the church don't approve, but it'll get, that's a reason why they want you to be so afraid of this stuff you'll never look. And most quote unquote good Christians won't. They'll sit there and spew all of that pablum and claptrap that they give you to say, and Jesus is in your heart, and I'm gonna pray for you, and you going to hell. They don't know nothing else past that. Nothing. Hey, YT Vero 2.0, welcome in. Things are meshing for you. Awesome. That's why I'm here, Patricia, for sure. I wondered, I did not want to be in the public eye. I didn't want to be on camera. I knew people was gonna clown me about my gap. I knew they was gonna clown me about my weight, my age, my all of that. I never had an idea that I wanted to be in the public eye. However, a couple years ago when Yeshua helped me finish connecting the dots, and Yahweh, me and Yahweh kind of had that final face off where I understood who he really, really was, and that I had been shown the true nature of Yahweh, and I was introduced to Enki and all of that. They kind of, my guys let me know, you don't have no choice but to speak on this, because it took me 50 years to figure it out, and I've been reading the Bible intently since I was 3 years old. And if it took me 50 years to figure, untie the knots and connect the dots, I'm very well aware that the vast majority of quote unquote good Christians that go to church do not read the Bible with that level of diligence. And even if they do, they're missing it. I missed it. And I'm not saying that I'm the smartest person that ever, but trust me, I'm smarter than the average bear. They did the IQ test and all of that stuff. So I read with comprehension. And if I missed it because I was blinded and brainwashed by religiosity, I know there's millions and millions of people out there that have not connected those dots yet. So I don't have no choice but to speak on it. Yeah, no, Patricia, we don't really want to call them the clowns, because here's the thing. I speak very vehemently and adamantly about religion, but I'm not really speaking out against the people, because I know the parishioners have genuinely, they are sincere people. They have been brainwashed, hoodwinked, and bamboozled. They've they've been programmed. They tapped in and they are programmed with the religious programming that they got at birth. When we first are born on this planet, our first 7 years of life, we are our brains are operating primarily in theta. That is a pre-hypnotic state. It is like our recording state. That is our RAM. We are constantly loading our memory. We are in programming mode for the first 7 years of our life. And that is when most of our ideas about family, however effed up that might be, functional or dysfunctional, our programming about family, base politics, religion, philosophy, and human relationships are all hardwired into us by whoever our first handlers are by age 7. So if we come in here, and a lot of us chosen ones do come through very dysfunctional families, we take the Super Dave crash and burn entry into this experience. So we got primitive religious ideas, some of us, and honestly, the ones that come in with atheism, that's a whole different nut to crack. But truthfully, they have less programming to wade through to get some understanding and awakening and enlightenment than the religious hardcore people. But they got people so, in a lot of these religions, they so messed up, they'll baptize their babies to suck them into this mess before the babies are even out of diapers. And Yeshua waited till he was 30 years old to be baptized. So why people think they're supposed to be in there baptizing children, I have no idea. But that's what a lot of these religions teach them to do. So they are consecrated to Yahweh before they even know any better. They're under contract to that dragon. I know that's right, Patricia. Don't be done. That's right. And congratulations, honey, because most people my age and beyond, most of them will not wake up. And especially like say in the 70 group and all, that was kind of sort of before the major, the like the first, before the first wave of star seeds kind of came in. But again, there are a few in that group that are awakening. And here's the thing I want you to know and understand. The more you get and the more you do, I firmly believe that we are about to have events happen here that are going to allow even those of us who are alive right now to expand our lifespans, primarily for the purpose of helping establish new earth and teaching the next generations that are coming in. Now, them real stubborn old heads, oh, they gonna die off, and thank God. I mean, I ain't trying to be funny, but we can't keep going the way we've been going. The ones that want to rock out with Yahweh and keep the greed and the corruption and all the rest of that mess going, they got to go. But those of us who are able to awaken and ascend, I believe we're going to get a bit of a dial back. Maybe even we'll have our telomeres uncapped. You know, you starting to see mainstream stuff where they talking about med beds and all. Years ago, when I first heard about them, it was a thing in the ethereal film, like the cities of light above. Each of the continents has an etheric city, and I was always taught that the med beds were something that they were in the etheric cities, and that you would have to be taken to that way, or the ascended masters would have to grant you to. Now you can turn on commercials and they talk about making med beds with technology. Now, of course, they've been pairing with some AI and all of that. I mean, not AI, but some extraterrestrials. However, we know we way overdue for quote unquote first contact. Now they've been contacting us ever since, but we look, we done lived through damn near all of the Bible prophecy. We in right around, by my estimation, we are living somewhere in the middle of Revelation 19 and 20 right now. Ain't but 2 more chapters in the book. So disclosure is going to happen at some point. And according to 21, it's very likely that those who are on the earth and alive, when 21 happens, will have a measure of their lives expanded. Hey, Timer, the cheese guy. No, I'm 57, but I was saying my age group and older. It ain't that huge of a jump. I mean, 23 years is not a huge jump. It is a generation, but there's a lot of folks in my age group too that will not awaken. They gonna literally be on that sinking ship, clutching their Bibles and their Qurans and their Talmuds and all the rest of that. They cannot hear this. John 3:16, absolutely I do not. I know I believe in him. I just believe that he's the devil because that's what the Bible says. That's what Yeshua said. So I believe who he is. Do I follow him? Do I worship him? Absolutely not. And his brother, Enki, said, I don't have to worship him either. I acknowledge Enki. I serve Enki, but I don't worship him. No, because I'm not supposed to be worshiping nobody, and neither are you. John 3:16. Let's read those too, because I want people to understand it. And again, you got to read a little bit differently. Let's read for some understanding, since John 3:16 came in here. And welcome to you, John. Welcome to you, Timer, the cheese guy. All of them. You say you about to go about the globe and speak about equality and that we're all very important. Good luck, Patricia. Honestly, because they ain't trying to hear it. You know what I'm saying? Travel the globe because you want to, but if you want to speak about equality, you reach more of the globe doing work. Get a platform. Get 2 or 3 of them. Stream to several. When I get to the point where I can get a few dummy phones or whatever the case may be, computers, I'm gonna start streaming on more. But since John 3:16 came in here, I want to look at the Gospel of John a little bit. I love the Gospel of John because truthfully, of all the 4 Gospels, it's the one that may have been actually written by a disciple who actually walked with Yeshua. For sure, Matthew, Mark, and Luke were not. But John, according to the book, is Yeshua's cousin, and it's very likely that John may have actually written this book or parts of it. So when I look at Yeshua's life and the things that he was doing and talking about and all of that, I lean more heavily to the Gospel of John than I do the other Gospels. But John 1:1 used to trip me up all the time. because I think in the King James or something, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. And I was like, what does that mean? However, if you go back, remember when I said the mistranslation of the word God? If you replace it with Elohim and El Shaddai, it makes perfect sense. Elohim means the powerful ones, and El Shaddai means sons of the powerful ones. So, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with the Elohim, and the Word was El Shaddai. He was in the beginning with the Elohim. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Now, this is part of why I believe that Yeshua is the second incarnation of Thoth, because in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with the Elohim. Thoth was known as the Word, and Yeshua was known as the Word. He was in the beginning with the Elohim. And the Word was Elohim or El Shaddai. Thoth, for sure, was El Shaddai. He was the direct son of Enki, so he would have been Elohim or El Shaddai. He was in the beginning with God, right from the time when the Elohim stepped foot off the spaceship in Nibiru. Enki was here, and Thoth came with him. So he was in the beginning with the Elohim. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. And that's true. Enlil, Yahweh, Jehovah was not hands-on involved in the fashioning and domestication of humans at all. It was all Enki, Nenma, and Thoth. And then after Adam or the Adamu was created, Ninma kind of sort of they gave her, I think it was Bat Tabira, I think was the name of her healing city. She had other healers from Nibiru. They kind of settled and they had their own separate city. But Thoth and Enki went into the Abzu, which is it according to them, it was an area of Africa that spanned from Western Africa, like around the Gold Coast, where the heavy concentration of gold is, across that bandwidth of Africa from west to east, and part going down into Southern Africa as well. But they had what they call the House of Life, and they continue to do genetic experimentation, domesticating of grains and crops. He sent for sheep to be imported from Nibiru so that they could domesticate them because they were overfishing the waters and over hunting the forest. So they had sheep imported from Nibiru so that they could breed those here on Earth for food. But all of those kinds of things, Enki and his son Thoth, Ningish Zeta was his Anunnaki name. Enki and Ningish Zeta was side by side every step of the way until Thoth reached his point of ascension to the point that he was granted immortality. And then he chose to leave the children of Kim or Africa, and then he went over into the Mayan and Incan lands and ruled as Quetzalcoatl and Kukulkan for several thousand years. But he was in Africa a minimum of 36,000 years ruling over the children of Kim. So he can genuinely say from the beginning, not anything made that was made without him. So if they were doing genetic experimentation to that point, oh yeah, absolutely. You can positive thoughts, you can accomplish anything you believe, yeah. Some are saying the next spiritual new world leader will come into the spotlight with the 3 eye Atlas energy. Maybe, but you know what? Again, what are we looking for? The next spiritual world leader? In my opinion, again, I think he's already here. Yeshua. He's coming back. We're gonna get there because we in John. We're gonna go back to Revelation and take a look at it because we pick it apart. We're gonna see some stuff. Now, I do firmly believe that that 3i Atlas energy is probably going to amplify a lot of the downloads, upgrades, speed up our evolution in some of us because we are kind of changing on the fly. That quote unquote junk, it was never junk, but they used to call it junk DNA. Oh, it's definitely not dormant anymore, and we're going to start seeing some very dramatic things happening. But I'm not sure if it would be a singular new world leader per se or a spiritual world leader in the physical. Because again, look at how hard people are even bucking on the information. They unalived Yeshua when he came in the physical to tell them that. You think they won't try to do it again? If he was to show up in the physical right now and tell you, I am Yeshua HaMashiach, don't you think that somebody would try to take him out right now? It's not even safe at this point in the game for a quote unquote new world leader to physically come here unless or until after we had that Revelation 21 moment. And we're going to get there. Bear with me a second. You saying the Spirit and the bride say, come? Kind of, sort of, but again, Patricia, we were talking about it on the last. I keep going back to the last live stream because I really think you'll get a lot of nuggets out of those last two live streams, because we were talking about the fact that Yeshua, what was done to Yeshua was foretold in Genesis, in the Garden of Eden, in Genesis 3, when it talks about how the serpent will bruise the Son of Man in the heel, and the Son of Man will crush the serpent in the head. And then that whole idea of him being the dragon and the serpent, Yahweh or Satan, the devil, the idea of, hold on a second. I'm sorry, y'all. I smelled something that was weird. It's not truly a burning smell, but my roommate said he's not heating nothing either, so I'm gonna just kind of pay attention to it for a few minutes. Um, but yeah, when we consider those that type of thing, that bit of Bible prophecy when Yeshua was supposedly unalived or crucified, but truthfully, at the end of the day, there are a lot of anthropologists and historians and stuff that say that he did not actually pass away during the crucifixion. And even in the Bible account, the herbs that they took into the tomb, those were not embalming herbs, they were healing herbs. But there are folks that say that he left the area after the crucifixion, and that some say he lived to be 48 years old, some say he lived to be 80 years old. But for sure, either way, there is a history of him having left that area after the so-called crucifixion and having traveled back through the Silk Road. In fact, there is a tomb there, Mother Mary. uh is it in Yemen or Turkey? I think it's in Turkey, that the tomb of Mother Mary is to this day. You're not interrupting, honey. Ask the, no, no, no. You can ask the questions. That's what we're here for. As long as they are genuine questions to drive the conversation forward, I don't mind questions at all. I only get irritated. We have a few sophisticated, quote unquote, trolls that like to come in here and put disruptive questions in. They're not genuinely asking a question, they're just wanting to take the conversation off in left field. Those are the ones that you'll hear me speaking out against. But if you're genuinely trying to learn and grow, that's exactly what I'm here for. So ask your questions, my love. Yeah. But anywho, back to the whole scenario with John. I mean, with Yeshua in the chapter in John chapter 1:1. If we read that scripture to in its most likely intended context, it will be very easy to see and perhaps understand that it's likely that Yeshua could be an incarnation of Thoth. As geneticists, they wouldn't have a problem. Again, their technology is literally a million years more advanced than ours. So if they could do the artificial insemination to have John be born to Zechariah and Elizabeth and have Yeshua be born to Mary and Joseph. Now they want to call it immaculate conception in religion, but that ain't what the scriptures indicate. If you actually read it and then go back and read what they were doing in the Lost Book with the Adam Project and all that, it's artificial insemination, but it was not immaculate conception per se. But that again, this is the time that story was told in. That was the best way for them to frame it up, I suppose. But if Enki was going to cause an in vitro fertilization and artificial insemination of a being, why could he not have transferred Thoth's consciousness into a zygote and inserted it into Mary? Especially since they did, at this point, they were Thoth and Enki. Not only did they do the geneticist thing and it was father and son in the physical, they both had a very, very close and like spiritual bond. When you get into the emerald tablets of Thoth, Sherry Tucholsky, if you don't like what we're talking about here, you can leave, but you don't have no idea what we're talking about. You be bopping up in here with no clue what's going on. So slow your roll. Hey, Rhonda Marsh, welcome in to you too as well. But by the time you get to the emerald tablets, Enki, in his spiritual position in the Iguanti or in the halls of Amenti, according to Thoth, his name is the dweller. But they were both working towards spiritual ascension. And that was one of the reasons why when Thoth achieved perfection, he asked to be able to remain among the children of men. He wanted to be a light of the world. You get it now? See? Don't that make way more sense than the story of Immaculate Conception? Way more sense. But people don't understand. Again, certain things were told in a certain way with what they could understand at the time. Hey, Douglas, welcome in, welcome in. If we were to go back in time right now, 1,000 years back in time, and roll up somewhere, drive, literally, if we were teleported back in time and drove up in our cars, step up out of our car, or better yet, land out of a helicopter with our iPhone, our Apple Watch, and our tablet in tow, and a remote control, don't you think somebody might think we were gods? I'm just saying. So when we start actually looking at what we're reading and reframe it with a little more information under our belts, it makes perfect sense. That's why I was saying this book doesn't contradict the Bible. It just gives us a little bit of, no, this book doesn't contradict the Bible, but it gives a different framework that we can understand things from. Yep. So basically, I want to go back to John 3:16 because it got me on that notion. There's a mistranslation, and again, this for in John 1:1, the mistranslation is they took out the, what is a, would be not an adjective, a participle, whatever. But it says in the beginning was the word was with God, and the word was God. It should have said the word was a God, but it should be, like I said, the lowercase g as an Elohim. But the same thing kind of sort of happens in John 3:16. For the Elohim so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. It should not be believes in him, it should be whoever believes like him. Even when he was baptized, I think the first time when he was first baptized, I think the scripture says, "This is my son, the beloved, whom I have approved." Believe him or follow him. I can't remember. Hold on. It's not in Matthew. I'm gonna find it in a second. In Mark. Oh, it just says, "With you I'm well pleased. This is my beloved. This is my son, the beloved. With you I am well pleased." I think it's at the Transfiguration where it says, "Follow him." But in any event, if we read this again, for the Elohim so loved the world. Now, which Elohim loved the world? It sure wasn't Yahweh. Yahweh hated humans from day one. He didn't really want to come here, but he came here because, well, he didn't get the throne. He couldn't get the throne on Nibiru as long as his daddy was ruling, but he wanted to go check out the situation when they came to mine for the gold, and his daddy gave him rulership of earth, which that's a whole nother story. He had to wind up battling Alalu again. He lied to Alalu. Alalu discovered earth and came here and asked for rulership of earth. And Anu agreed to it, and then when they got here, swapped it out and gave rulership to Enlil instead of Enki. Do you have any transcripts of the Bible to show what you're talking about, John 3:16? Not at all. So stop the BS. Kill your ass, John 3:16. Because it's not even talking about Yahweh. That's my entire point. It ain't whether we choose believe in or believe like is immaterial, because the Elohim that loved the world was not Yahweh Jehovah. It's Enki that loves the world. And Enki gave his son Yeshua, who may also perhaps be his actual son, Thoth, so that whoever believed like him might achieve eternal life, just like Thoth did in the Emerald Tablets. Let me see if I can find where I think it's in the third tablet. No. Oh, it went right to it. Hold on. I can't believe the book opened right to it. So we're going to read this part. Hold on. Trying to see which tablet this was, because I'm not going to read the entire thing, but it talks about the 30 and 2 in the dweller. Hang on. This was a long chapter. This is in Emerald Tablet 2. Alalu was the one who found Earth from the very beginning. Again, you don't know what you bebopped up in here on the 11th hour and don't have no clue what's going on, what you're talking about. If you read the Lost Book of Enki, they tell you what happened before they got to Earth. And Alalu had been ruling on Nibiru when they needed to find the solution for the gold. He wasn't coming up by none of your business. Go watch some of my material and then you'll know. I'm not going to stop what I'm doing to go all the way back to square one for somebody who literally just came in here 5 minutes ago and asking all these questions without even being quiet and bothering to listen. You're only doing that to disrupt the conversation. So if you want to know who Enki is, go back. I got a whole playlist on this channel of me reading the Lost Book of Enki. And I got a whole other playlist on this channel called Modern Mystic Loved Ones is the name of that playlist. And you start going and watching and listening through some of that, and you'll find out who Alalu and Enki and all of them are, okay? Okay. Anyway, for the rest of us, in the second Emerald Tablet, Thoth describes going into the halls of Amenti, and he talks about the 30. He was going to see the dweller, who is his father Enki, but in his spiritual title, you getting ready to get out of here, because we already know that. Hey, Julie. You can do, you can look it up by title. You can buy it on Amazon. There's several different channels here that have readings of it, have video presentations of it. I've read the whole book. It's a translation. Zechariah Sitchin did not write this book. He translated the text and published it. It's called The Lost Book of Enki. You say you have a device and not using it to look up anything? Yeah. I just told you goodbye, John 3:16. I'm really about to silence you because you're being a disruptive force for no reason. I just told you who published the book. Zechariah Sitchin. He made his whole life's work discussing the Anunnaki texts that they dug up out the ground back during the 20th century, and they found the translation key. I think it was in 1928. This translation key was discovered that allowed them to translate Sumerian, Babylonian, and Anunnaki text. And this was done in Anunnaki. And because he was born in Palestine and could read and translate ancient Hebrew and Aramaic, and could read Sumerian, he was given the honor and task of translating the Lost Book of Enki when they dug it up out the ground and found it. And after he did that, he also went on to write about 14 other books with all of the proof and the discussion and the anthropological evidence to support this book. This is not a work of fiction, it is a translation, but you have to go look it up exactly. No, don't tell him because he knows he already. John 3:16 has been in my live stream before. He called himself being cute, but I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt, and I gave him all the tools. But if he gonna be lazy, he didn't come back bebopping up in the live stream weeks and weeks and weeks later, and he still don't know who Inky is. He don't want to know. He don't deserve your time to know, Patricia. Don't worry about it. Hey, tourist Tuksu, how are you? Thank you. Appreciate you. Now let's get back here to the emerald tablets because it was the thing that I wanted. The 32, they decided to stay amongst men. They weren't going to leave and kind of leave us to ourselves, but they continue to support us with their energy and kind of telepathically and all of that. But hold on. I want to get to this. Okay. These are the words of Thoth. And again, he was in the halls of Amenti. He was discussing the 32 who had decided to stay amongst the children of men. They did not go back to Nibiru, but they kind of went within, and they are in the stasis state in the halls of Amenti. They're spiritually like lending their energy and communicating telepathically, but they're no longer walking among the children of men. Yeah. Yeah, he's pathetic. But again, the spirit of the troll, for whatever reasons they choose to troll, it does indicate there's some psychological or mental situation going on there. And here come this other fool right on cue. Bye, blue eyes. Stay and learn something or not, but this is all the acknowledgement you're getting from me. Hey and bye. Don't nobody else need to talk to blue eyes either, because that's a show enough simple-minded troll that ain't got nothing better to do with his life. He gonna wish he had the times back that he wasted on other people's channels acting a fool. Um, okay. There before them I was led by the dweller, watched him blend with one from above. Then from he came forth a voice saying, Great art thou, Thoth, among children of men, free henceforth of the halls of Amenti, master of life among children of men, taste not of death except as thou will it, drink thou of life to eternity's end. Henceforth forever is life thine for the taking. Henceforth is death at the call of thy hand. So now he's saying he's been in the halls of Amenti going back and forth. And he mentioned how, like, out of every thousand, he spends 100 years out of every 1,000 years in this stasis point. But instead of just laying there in stasis, he was going into the astral, going through the realms. He was spiritually leveling up over hundreds and hundreds of years. So he finally reached a point where the dweller is telling him, you've beat the big boss. You have conquered mortality. You don't have to leave the body or die or whatever unless you choose it. You've reached immortality. And so the dweller, Enki, that's Enki's spiritual title. He's told him, congratulations, you done graduated. You have ascended this part of the game. You're done with physical incarnation and death if you choose to be. Dwell here or leave here when thou desirest. Free is Amenti to the Son of Man. And again, Thoth is known as the Son of Man here. Then from his throne came one of the masters, taking my hand and leading me onward through all the halls of the deep hidden land. Led he me through the halls of Amenti, showing the mysteries that are known not to man. Through the dark passage downward he led me into the hall where sight the dark death. Vast as space lay the great hall before me, walled by darkness yet filled with light. Before me arose a great throne of darkness, veiled on it sat a figure of night. Darker than darkness sat the great figure, dark with a darkness not of the night. Before it paused the master, speaking the word that brings about life, saying, O master of darkness, guide of the way from life unto life. Before thee I bring a son of the morning. Touch him not ever with the power of night. Call not his flame to the darkness of night. Know him and see him, one of our brothers, lifted from darkness into the light. Release thou his flame from its bondage. Free let it flame through the darkness of night. Raise then the hand of the figure. Forth came a flame that grew clear and bright, rolled back swiftly the curtain of darkness, unveiled the hall from the darkness of night. Then grew in the great space before me flame after flame from the veil of the night. Uncounted millions leaped they before me, some flaming forth as flowers of fire. Some there were that faded swiftly, others that grew from a small spark of light, each surrounded by its dim veil of darkness, yet flaming with light that could never be quenched, coming and going like fireflies in springtime. Fill they with space, with light, and with life. So now he's gone into the dark, like I said, down into the halls of Amenti. He's being introduced to the keeper of basically death. And he's shown the light of the individual life lights of all of humanity, millions of them. The dweller is telling them, pull Thoth's light up out of that pile because you ain't got no more control over that. He's done with the cycle. But he witnessed this when he was dealing with the keeper of darkness. Then spoke a voice mighty and solemn, saying, these are the lights that are souls among men, growing and fading, existing forever, changing yet living through death into life. When they have bloomed into flower, reached the zenith of growth in their life, swiftly then I send my veil of darkness, shrouding and changing to new forms of life. So grows the soul of man ever upward, quenched yet unquenched by the darkness of night. I, death, come, and yet I remain not, for life eternal exists in the all, only an obstacle, I in the pathway, quickly to be conquered by the infinite light. Awaken, O flame that burns ever inward, flame forth and conquer the veil of the night. Then in the midst of the flames, in the darkness grew there one that drove forth the night, flaming, expanding, ever brighter, until at last nothing was light. There was nothing but light. Then spoke I, O great master, let me be a teacher of men, leading then onward and upward until they too are lights among men, freed from the veil of the night that surrounds them, flaming with light that shall shine among men. Spoke to me then the voice, go as yet will, so be it decreed. Master are ye of your destiny, free to take or reject at will. Take yet the power, take ye the wisdom, shine as a light among the children of men. So Thoth achieved his spiritual immortality and asked to come back to be a light among men. So when we get back here, John 1, in the beginning was the Word, And the Word was with the Elohim, and the Word was Elohim. He was in the beginning with the Elohim. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Correlation, anyone? He wanted to be a light among men. And so very likely, since the dweller done told him, you can incarnate at will if you want to. You don't have to anymore. You've conquered death now. But if you want to stay among men, so be it. You can go as you will. You are the master of your own destiny, free to take or reject at will. Take your power, take the wisdom, shine as a light among the children of men. And then along comes Yeshua. Inky been trying to find a way to help us enlighten and teach the truth in the face of all of the crap that his brother has stacked up against us. He still keeps enlightening people and sending messengers. He sent the Buddha 500 years before that. And then he turned around and sent Yeshua. And then 500 years after Yeshua comes Hermes Trismegistus. So why is it hard for people to understand? If Enki could do artificial insemination, this master teacher that descended amongst us, called Yeshua, who was the light of the world, who was the word, who was the logos, who was a light among men, who was the son of man, all of these titles and epithets that Thoth had worn thousands of years before, Yeshua comes here and is given all of those epithets again, and he is teaching people about Lord Enki and telling the Jews that they are worshiping the wrong Elohim, that they've completely got it wrong, that his father is kind and his father is just and his father is not the Elohim that the Jews are worshiping. And they hated him so much they killed him for it. But they couldn't really kill him because, again, if he's Thoth and he's transcended death, he can incarnate at will. They couldn't kill him no way. And what was that Yeshua said? Fear not those that can kill the body but cannot destroy the soul. Yo. Hey, Concrete Rose 242. Yes, I was reading in a passage of the Emerald Tablets because we were in the scriptures. And hey, Esp Solo, or ESP Solo, however that goes. But yeah. But ESP Solo, you have to understand something. He wasn't the son of man from Daniel. Daniel prophesied about him. There were several prophecies that were put into place. That's all the more reason I understood in my studies that he was sent here, put here by Lord Enki, not Yahweh Jehovah. Christianity would have us believe that Yeshua is the son of God, but they have you believe he's the son of Yahweh Jehovah. No, he is not. He was the son of Enki, the other Elohim that they scrubbed out of the ancient text when they decided to spin it and put it forth to us as the Bible. How do you know what Zechariah Sitchin did? His works was authenticated. Now you on your way up out of here because you're talking like a fool. You can barely read and understand English, and you're gonna turn around and talk about what somebody who was respected all around the world could do. You don't understand at all. Goodbye, ESP Solo. I ain't got time for your nonsense. So you're gonna be in timeout. And maybe when you come back, you can act like somebody, or maybe I'll be gone by then. How about that? Because I don't have time for foolishness. And you just spamming your little booty off. No. Zechariah Sitchin probably passed on before you was even born, and you got the nerve to come back and challenge whether he could read or not. And you, like I said, you can barely read and comprehend English. And you gonna tell me what this man did? He didn't write 14 books for nothing. He wasn't acknowledged for doing all of that for nothing. His works have been translated and published all around the world, and this clown gonna come in here and talk about he don't even know what he talking about. Really? That part. But anywho, okay, John 3:16. You say you never seen the live. So somebody else was, maybe they put an O in there. Somebody else had John 3:16 in their title. I definitely remember that. So if it wasn't you, that's fine. I'm sorry. But again, the spamming while I'm trying to teach, it's gotta go. Because these people endured the ridicule. They spent their life's work. They made it their life's work, whether they got acknowledged, fully acknowledged until after their passing or not. It was important enough for them for them to travel the world, to spend quite literally decades doing this research. Ain't nobody gonna come in here and disrespect them on my watch. Just not gonna happen. Especially when we're trying to teach somebody, teach people something vitally important. Don't disrespect a teacher that way. Yeah. If you don't agree with what they're teaching, just scroll on. But don't disrespect that man that way. He made it his life's work to put that information out there, and I'm thankful that he did, because Lord Enki said that he was hoping that in some point in time that a chosen one would find this information and bring it out so that people could understand the truth. I'm gonna have to go back to the attestation. Teamwork is the way. What? What are you talking about? Don't come in here with no foolishness. First of all, I don't even have no kids and I don't even smoke anymore. So what are you in here talking about? Yeah, we're not doing that. Take your delusion someplace else, please. Thank you. It ain't no message. It don't make no sense at all. If you're gonna bring a message into a chat, make it relevant to the chat that you're spamming. Again, you're in here talking about parents making their children feel guilty or whatever, me leave the room because they smoking and calling people pieces of shit when you don't have a clue what you in here talking about. That is completely irrelevant to anything we talking about. So that's not a message. That's just rude disruption and your mental illness coming to the fore. That's what that is. Anyway, when we go to the attestation, hold on. Okay. I think I can. Bye, Michael. If you think I'm talking demonic, leave the channel. That's all you got to do, because there ain't no bigger demon on this planet than Yahweh, Michael. And you probably one of his henchmen. That's why it bothers you so much. Your demons are literally irritated at me telling the truth, but it don't bother me because they didn't want to hear what Yeshua had to say either, Michael. I'm gonna read a little bit from the Lost Book of Enki. I'm going into the attestation of Indupsar, and again, we listen to whatever. Again, I'm not even paying you no more attention, so you can just save your time, and y'all ain't got to get rid of him. He get rid of his own self because he's just making himself look a fool. You can get rid of him if it really bothers you. If he really gets to bothering you, because I'm getting ready to start reading. If he continues talking foolishness, or if he really, really bothers you, Natalie, he can. But I don't care that he don't like what I got to say, because like I said, his demons are the ones that's irritating. and you ain't got no kind of life, because I'd be damned if I would waste my time to even create 200 accounts just so I could go and be a problem child in other people's live streams. That lets me know that you's the biggest bunch of nothing anybody ever seen or heard for. So I ain't got to bother with you. Bye. Exactly. You live to upset somebody, and one of these days that's going to bite you in the ass. Your karma will bite you. It will. But you go ahead. You are spamming right now, dear one. That part. But the thing that I love about it, talks about the words of Andupsar, master scribe, son of Eridu city, servant of the Lord Enki, because I didn't even catch that the first time I read through this. But Andupsar is Enki's grandson, also. Like Enoch was his great grandson, I think. Like Methuselah was in his lineage. Like Noah was his son. All of those. Yeah. But it says here, in the 7th year after the great calamity, in the 2nd month, on the 17th day, I was summoned by my master, the Lord Enki, great God, benevolent fashioner of mankind, omnipotent and merciful. Now, they put them epithets on there in the Babylonian and Sumerian tradition. They did a lot of that. This is pretty much the beginning and the ending of the aggrandizement that I see in this book, but he is not omnipotent. He is merciful. He is the fashioner of mankind, but he does put great God in here in the lowercase. And I noticed that. You don't have no business singing. No, you're not creating no whatever. You're not creating nothing. You're not helping nothing, because we're not even discussing smoking. So how is that helping? You're not bringing no message in here. Don't come in here talking about stuff that we're not talking about. And that you know good and full well, you can just leave them alone. You ain't gotta, yeah. Either that. I wish and YouTube would allow me to ban them and all their related accounts. Because again, how much of a loser do you have to be to create 200 fake accounts just to spam people? Who would waste their own precious time that way? That means you got to have 200 emails that you're willing to devote to creating accounts, and then log into YouTube and then select an account to come back. That is somebody that genuinely ain't got no kind of damn life. They pathetic. Just evil for no reason. And at the end of the day, I didn't attack you. I didn't attack you. I told you to go on about your business, because the first thing you said, the first word you came in here was accusing of what we're doing to be demonic, while I'm sitting here literally reading from the Bible and the Lost Book and the Emerald Tablets. So I'm not attacking you, but carry your ass. That's what you can do. You wasn't standing up for me. Okay. My apologies then if I stand corrected. But that don't that's not what it looked like. That's not what it felt like. That's not what it seemed like to anybody else. Because trust me, the rest of them understood it the same way I did. So maybe you should get a better grasp of the English language before you decide to come in and stand up for somebody in such a way that everybody present sees it a completely different way. Because I'm not the only one that understands that you were not standing up for me. So now you want to come back with your narcissistic gaslighting and try to claim otherwise? No, Michael. But anyway, I've wasted enough time and breath on you. You're invisible to me now. I'm gonna go on about my business. But thank you. hmm So Andupsar says, I was among the remnants of Eridu who had escaped to the arid steppe just as the evil wind was nearing the city. And remember, I told y'all in that pissing contest between Marduk and Ninurta, Marduk unleashed this atomic weapon that was supposed to be only for use on board the spaceship out in space if they encountered an enemy spaceship. They were nuclear weapons that the spaceships were outfitted with. When Inky and them came there, because they were going to be moving the gold back and forth, he removed those weapons and hid them in a cave so that they would not be used or misused. And Marduk remembered that they were still on the planet, he went back to Enlil and got Enlil to side with him, and then ran back and got permission from the council on Nibiru to use the weapon, and insisted on using it. And when they did, the nuclear fallout from it destroyed Sumer and Eridu and all of them. So I was among the remnants of Eridu who had escaped to the arid steppe just as the evil wind was nearing the city. And I wandered off into the wilderness to seek withered twigs for firewood. And I looked up, and lo and behold, a whirlwind came out of the south. There was a reddish brilliance about it, and it made no sound. And it's interesting. There is a scripture, I believe, that where Enlil talks about coming somewhere in the whirlwind. No, not Scientology, Gary the Snail. Listen and learn. Okay, whatever you say. Bye bye. Again, I'm not gonna react to you any further, cause whatever. So now I looked up, and lo and behold, a whirlwind came out of the south. There was a reddish brilliance about it, and it made no sound. And as it reached the ground, 4 straight feet spread out from its belly, and the brilliance disappeared. And I threw myself to the ground and prostrated myself, for I knew that it was a divine vision. And when I lifted my eyes, there were 2 divine emissaries standing near me, and they had faces of men, and their garments were sparkling like burnished brass. And they called me by name and spoke to me, saying, "You are summoned by the great God, Lord, the Lord Enki. Fear not, for you are blessed, and we are here to take you aloft and carry you into his retreat in the land of Magan, on the island amidst the river of Magan, where the sluices are." And as they spoke, the whirlwind lifted itself as a fiery chariot and was gone. And they took me by the hands, each one grasping me by one hand. And they lifted me and carried me swiftly between the earth and the heavens, and as the eagle soars. And I could see the land and the waters and the plains and the mountains. And they let me down on the island at the gateway of the great God's abode. And the moment they let go of my hands, a brilliance as I had never seen before engulfed and overwhelmed me, and I collapsed on the ground as though voided of the spirit of life. Hey, Lunar Beats, welcome in, welcome in. And thank you, appreciate you. Appreciate you, Lunar Beats. Thank you. Let me see. My life senses returned to me as if awakened from the deepest sleep by the sound of the calling of my name. I was in some kind of an enclosure. It was dark, but there was also an aura. Then my name was called again by the deepest of voices, and although I could hear it, I could not tell whence the voice came, nor could I see whoever it was that spoke. Remember, they're still under this rule from Yahweh saying that we could not see their faces. So Yahweh, Enki kept to the rule, even though Yahweh broke his own rule and appeared to Abraham by his face. Enki still kept to the rule. And so then the voice said to me, "Endupsar, offspring of Adapa." And again, he's the son of Adapa, but Adapa is the son of Enki by dawn or dusk, whichever one. So Endupsar is Enki's grandson, but the voice said to me, "Undupsar, offspring of Adapa, I have chosen you to be my scribe, that you write down my words on the tablets." And all at once there appeared a glowing in one part of the enclosure, and I saw a place arranged like a scribal workplace, a scribe's table and a scribe's tool, and there were finely shaped stones on the table. But I saw no clay tablets nor containers of wet clay, and there lay upon the table only one stylus, and it glistened in the glowing as no reed stylus ever did. And the voice spoke up again, saying, "Andupsar, son of Eridu city, my faithful servant, I am your lord Enki. I have summoned you to write down my words, for I am much distraught by what has befallen mankind by the great calamity. It is my wish to record the true course of the events, to let gods and men alike know that my hands are clean. Not since the great deluge has such a calamity befallen the earth and the gods and the earthlings. But the great deluge was destined to happen, not so the great calamity. So, hey Terry, welcome. So he's saying this right here, this didn't have to happen. We couldn't stop the flood from happening. So the flood, we couldn't control. This mess here, this great calamity that wiped out Schumer and Eridu and all that, this didn't have to happen. And I want to speak on it to let y'all know I ain't had nothing to do with this. I want to set the record straight on some things because, like I said, this is affecting the earth and the gods, the other Elohim, and the earthlings, humans. And I just really want to get my conscience clear and speak my piece on this. So I'm going to have you be my scribe on Dupsar. This one, 7 years ago, need not have happened. It could have been prevented, and I, Inky, did all I could to prevent it. Alas, I failed. And was it fate or was it destiny? In the future, shall it be judged? For at the end of days, a day of judgment there shall be. On that day, the earth shall quake, and the river shall change course, and there shall be darkness at noon, and a fire in the heavens in the night. The day of the returning celestial God it will be. Ooh. Now, that part, I hadn't even thought about that before. Because they do know that every so many turns of Nibiru or whatever, it really, really shakes up Earth's atmosphere and it causes darkness and its magnetic poles to slip and all of that. But he's talking about the return of the celestial God, I believe, the creator of all. He's saying what we've done here could very well subject us to judgment too. The gods, we could be subjected to a judgment as well. So I really want to speak my piece because I don't know at what day, at the end of all of this ride, not only could humanity have a fallout from it, but what we've done here as so called gods, we could be brought to task for it as well. And I want to speak mine. Okay. And who shall survive and who would perish? Who shall be rewarded and who will be punished? Gods and men alike on that day shall it be discovered. For what shall come to pass by what had passed shall be determined. And what was destined shall be in a cycle repeated, and what was fated and only by the heart's will occurring for good or ill shall for judgment come. So that was his biggest existential crisis. Like, we did what we did out of a sense of needing, well, like I said, necessity caused us to do this. But were we destined to do this? Did the creator of all kind of put all of this in front of us and understand that we were going to figure this out and come do it? Or were we actually tempting fate? And are we going to be punished for it in the long run? It ain't exactly tomato tomato, it's kind of potato tomato, but he's trying to figure that out. You say it's just like his confession or step 5, kind of sorta, because he realizes that when he goes back and discusses in the book, and again I'm gonna start reading it again for those who just want to go through it again with me because I want to go through it again. Um, but he was basically saying, you know, we did what we had to do. But he also realized that things got way, way, way out of hand. And a lot of the things that Enlil brought in and started bringing into the fore changed the trajectory of his initial intention. This is not what Enki intended for humanity. This is what Enlil crafted by allowing a lot of the wrong stuff. And a lot of that, because my son asked me, he was like, well, if Enki is such a benevolent God, why didn't he just put a stop to it? His hands were tied because Enlil was very skillful at running back and getting Anu, his daddy, to just allow him to do whatever he wanted to. I don't want to call Anu weak, but kind of sort of, yeah, because he didn't keep his word either. And when it was time to punish wrongdoing, he was soft-hearted towards his sons and his grandsons and stuff, and he just allowed them to kind of do whatever they wanted to do. And Inky is telling y'all it ain't gonna go well. Please don't let this happen. This isn't what we need to do. And ain't nobody listening to him. He has been fighting this almost single-handedly. But like I said, him and Ninmah and Thoth were together, so he wasn't entirely single-handedly. But it was a division of factions right back from the beginning. Those who chose to follow with Enlil and his wicked agendas, and those who were trying to help humanity course correct by bringing enlightenment and truth and spirituality their way. And every step of the way, Enlil and them have basically kept slapping it down until look at what we're at right now. The information is still here on the planet. We're still trying to bring it forth. And Enlil's people, Christians, Jews, Muslims, and all of that, still come and slap it down to this day. Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years later. So yeah, he's kind of step 5 in confessing all, speaking his truth, kind of letting people know the things he observed, why they came, what went wrong, what can be done about it, all of it. He's just laying it all out. And the very fact that it took so long for this to be found kind of sort of also lends to its authenticity, because he says in here he knows that he can't openly say these things because the rest of them that's got the power ain't wanting to hear it. He had all of this written down and then had it sealed in a chest and put away in a cave or wherever they left it and hid it, hoping that thousands of years from now somebody would find it and be able to understand it, translate it, whatever, and help humanity course correct. But yeah, let's continue. Let me see. Let me go back. And who shall survive and who will perish? Who shall be rewarded and who will be punished? Gods and men alike on that day shall it be discovered. For what shall come to pass by what had passed shall be determined, and what was destined shall be in a cycle repeated, and what was fated and only by the heart's will occurring for good or ill shall for judgment come. The voice fell silent. Then the great Lord spoke up again, saying, it is for this reason that I will tell the true account of the beginnings and of the prior times and of the olden times. For in the past the future lies hidden. For 40 days and 40 nights shall I speak, and you will write. 40 shall be the count of the days and of the nights of your task here, for 40 is my sacred number among the gods. For 40 days and 40 nights you shall neither eat nor drink. Only this once of bread and water you shall partake, and it shall sustain you for the duration of your task. And the voice paused, and all at once there appeared a glowing in another part of the enclosure. And I saw a table, and upon it a plate and a cup. And I rose up thereto, and there was bread on the plate and water in the cup. And the voice of the great Lord Enki spoke up again, saying, Andupsar, eat the bread and drink the water, and be sustained for 40 days and 40 nights. And I did as directed. And thereafter the voice directed me to sit myself at the scribal table, and the glowing there intensified. I could see neither door nor aperture where I was, yet the glowing was as strong as the midday sun. So they got technology. He's got indoor lighting, but it's unlike anything Andupsar is familiar with. So he don't even know how to describe it or what to call it. And the voice said, and Dupsar the scribe, what do you see? And I looked and I saw the glowing red upon the table and the stones and the stylus, and I said, I see the stone tablets, and their hue is blue, as pure as the sky, and I see a stylus as I have never seen before, its stem unlike any reed, and its tip shaped like an eagle's talon. And the voice said, these are the tablets upon which you shall inscribe my words. By my wish they have been cut out of the finest lapis lazuli, each with two smooth faces provided. And the stylus you see is a god's handiwork, its handle made of electrum, and its tip of divine crystal. It shall firmly fit in your hand, and what you shall engrave with it will be as easy as marking upon wet clay. In 2 columns you shall inscribe the front face, in 2 columns you shall inscribe the back of each stone tablet. Do not deviate from my words and utterances. And there was a pausing, and I touched one of the stones, and the surface thereof felt like a smooth skin, soft to the touch. And I picked up the holy stylus, and it felt like a feather in my hand. And then the great god Enki began to speak, and I began to write down his words exactly as he had spoken them. At times his voice was strong, at times almost a whisper. At times there was joy or pride in his voice, at times pain or agony. And as one tablet was inscribed on all its faces, I took another to continue. And when the final words were spoken, the great God paused, and I could hear a great sigh. And he said, Undupsar, my servant, for 40 days and 40 nights you have faithfully recorded my words. Your task here is completed. Now take hold of another tablet, and on it you shall write your own attestation. And at the end thereof, as a witness, mark it with your seal, and take the tablet and put it together with the other tablets in the divine chest. For at a designated time, chosen ones shall come hither, and they shall find the chest and the tablets, and they shall learn all that I have dictated to you. And that true account of the beginnings and of the prior times and the olden times and the great calamity shall henceforth be known as the words of the Lord Enki. And it shall be a book of witnessing of the past and a book of foretelling the future. For the future in the past lies, and the first things shall also be the last things. And didn't Yeshua say that too? The first shall be last, and the last shall be 1st. And there was a pause, and I took the tablets, and I put them one by one in their correct order in the chest. And the chest was made of acacia wood, and it was inlaid with gold on the outside. And the voice of my Lord said, Now close the chest cover and fasten its lock. And I did as directed. And there was another pause, and my Lord Enki said, And as for you, Indubsar, with a great God you have spoken, and though you have not seen me, in my presence you have been. Therefore you are blessed, and my spokesman to all the people you shall be. You shall admonish them to be righteous, for in that lies a good thing. For in that lies a good and long life, and you shall comfort them. For in 70 years the cities will be rebuilt, and the crops shall sprout again. There will be peace, but there will also be wars. New nations will become mighty. Kingdoms shall rise and fall. The olden gods shall step aside, and new gods shall decree the fates. But at the end of days, destiny shall prevail. And of that future it is foretold in my words about the past. Of all that, Undubsar, to the people you shall tell. And there was a pause and a silence, and I, Undubsar, bowed to the ground and said, But how will I know what to say? And of the voice of the Lord Enki, and the voice of the Lord Enki said, The signs will be in the heavens, and the words to utter shall come up to you in dreams and in visions. And after you, there will be other chosen prophets. And in the end, there will be a new earth and a new heaven. And for prophets, there will be no more need. And then there was silence, and the auras were extinguished, and the spirit left me. And when I regained my senses, I was in the fields outside Eridu. Yeah, that part. Hey, Legend X. Now, let's cruise on over to Revelation 21, because that's where he began the story. And he's telling you kind of sort of how it's going to end, because other gods done rose, others fell. In 20, it talks about Satan, the devil, being bound for 1,000 years. We talked about that in the last live stream. Satan of the Eden is Enlil, Yahweh, Jehovah, Allah, whatever you choose to call him. And it says, I saw an angel coming down from heaven, holding in his hand the key to the bottomless pit and a great chain. And he seized the dragon, that ancient serpent who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years, and threw him into the pit, and shut it and sealed it over him, so that he might not deceive the nations any longer until the 1,000 years were ended. After that, he must be released for a little while. And then we talked about 4 through 8, the ones who were going to rule with Yeshua and all that. That's not the point I'm going for. In 7, it says, when the 1,000 years were ended, Satan will be released from his prison and will come out to deceive the nations that are at the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them for battle. Their number is like the sand of the sea. Are we not in a point in time, we've talked about it before, 75% of this planet worships Yahweh in one form or another, whether it's through Christianity, Islam, or Judaism. 75% of the planet worships Yahweh to this day. Is that not deceiving the people and gathering the four corners of the earth like the sand. Their number is like the sand of the sea. 6 billion of the 8 billion people on this planet worship Yahweh. That is numbers like the sand of the sea. And they marched up over the broad plain of the earth and surrounded the camp of the saints in the beloved city. But fire came down from heaven and consumed them. And the devil who had deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur where the beast and the false prophet were, and they will be tormented day and night forever. Notice the people, the humans who choose to follow Yahweh and continue to follow him, were consumed by the fire. They were destroyed. The lake of fire was for the beast and the false prophet, those who deliberately misled humanity. Hey, Glove 300, you are so welcome. You're very, very welcome. And so then the part that I wanted to get to, because he was talking about the last being first and the first being last, and what was going to happen in the end with the new heaven and the new earth. Revelation 21, it goes right back there. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. Before we get to that verse, though, we got to go back and read 3:12 because it feeds in, because Yeshua gave the vision. It's just one verse, so I'm going to go there. Revelation 3 and verse 12. The one who conquers, I will make him a pillar in the temple of my Elohim. Never shall he go out of it, and I will write on him the name of my Elohim and the name of the city of my Elohim, the new Jerusalem, which comes down from my Elohim out of heaven, and my own new name. And then it says here, after the destruction of Satan and those who want to continue to rock out with Satan, and because Yeshua said it's the meek who will inherit the earth, those who are childlike, the ones who love peace, the ones who are willing to, beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning shears. That's something else I wanted to call to the attention of the trolls, in case there are any that are timed out, that are just itching for their timer so they can come back in and be divisive. Your attitude is very indicative of your overall vibration. And if anybody really thinks that they can continue to be a clashing cymbal and buck this hard against somebody that's attempting to teach Yeshua's word and trying to teach somebody something in love and peace, and you just want to be a problem and be a problem and be a problem, like one of those people said, just for the joy of being a problem, that they come in here and do that. That lets you know your energy, your vibration, your thought process is not in alignment with anybody that will survive to Revelation 21. You align with that type of energy that'll be chopped down with Satan and his demons. I didn't say it, the scriptures did. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from the Elohim. I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from the Elohim, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, behold, the dwelling place of the Elohim is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and the Elohim himself will be with them as their Elohim. He will wipe every tear from their eyes, and death will be no more, neither shall mourning, nor crying, nor pain be any more, for the former things have passed away. And he who was seated on the throne said, and he said his son would rule. So Yeshua is seated on the throne, and Yeshua said his father judges not. He said, my judges are light, my father judges not. So Father is coming down from the sky with this new base camp, this new whirlwind, New Jerusalem, as a base camp for new earth. And seated on the throne, he said, behold, I am making all things new. Also, he said, write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true. And then in 22:16, he gives his new name, the bright morning star. He said he's a descendant of David, the bright morning star. He's the root and the descendant of David. Yeah. So yeah. Hey, Brittany, welcome. Ain't seen you in a minute. Welcome, welcome. But yeah, I think that we're in a good spot for this evening. I done stayed on way longer than I had tended to, but it was a good session, and I definitely appreciate all that did stick around. I'm gonna give some backhanded thanks to the trolls too, because you still leave teaching moments, and I'm learning too. So if I lose my cool because y'all in here being disrespectful, please forgive me. If you're genuinely sincere and not a troll, I apologize. If you are a troll and just being narcissistic, gaslighting just to try to prove a point, then kick rocks with open toe shoes on. But in the event, soul family. Hey, Swims, good evening to you as well. Yep, yep. I wish you would come in earlier because I'm just about getting ready to check out. Thank you, Brittany. I appreciate you. I'm getting ready to check out here. This is what, Tuesday evening. I'm gonna try. I might go on live a little bit Thursday afternoon for tarot, but other than that, either Thursday or Friday evening, I'll be back. Definitely set for notifications. If you're a part of the WhatsApp group, of course, I'll let you know before I go in. But I will see you all a little bit later in the week. And in the meantime, in between time, do look for some uploads. I keep saying that, but I promise y'all I'm gonna get on it because look, the energy is energying, but I'm feeling bad about it. So I've got to start putting some uploads up there. I'm gonna dig into it. I love you all. Peace and blessings to you. Oh, if you want to be a part of the WhatsApp group, you can email me at modernmysticmessages@gmail.com. Email me there and I'll be happy to send you a link. Or if you don't want to email me, you can DM me on Instagram. I'm Modern Mystic Messages on Instagram as well. You can DM me there and I'll send you the link. I just hesitate to put my actual phone number in YouTube because of all the trolls. So I hope y'all will understand and bear with me there. But we'd love to have you over in the WhatsApp group. Just send me the email or DM me on Instagram, and I will be more than happy to hook you up with that. And like I said, in the meantime, in between time, be good. If you can't be good, you all know the rest. So have a wonderful rest of your evening. Until then, peace and blessings to you, soul family. I love you so very much. Namaste.